All right, all right, all right. We back. We live. Had everything messed up. Been a late start today, but sometimes it goes that way. Hey, but we here. Had a lot to get done today, but now we're here. I know we normally start our lives at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, but we got had a lot of stuff to get done this morning, and it took me longer than normal. But we're here. We're here, and today we're going to be talking about the historical lives in the Bible. It's primarily focused on Joseph and the dreamer. Joseph the dreamer, the technicolor coat of Joseph, and how there is no proof. Now, I don't know if you guys saw the video I did over the weekend, but I did a short video based on this over the weekend. If you saw that video, that's great. If you didn't, you can still go back and watch it. But we're going to talk about pretty much everything that was there. So we're going to talk about the fact that there is absolutely no historical data for Joseph, but there should be historical data for Joseph. And I can go ahead and tell on YouTube, Chematology, you're completely wrong. Joseph does not equal Imhotep because the timeline simply just does not work, nor does the story work for Joseph to have been Imhotep, right? But that's a popular thought. It's a popular theory that Joseph is Imhotep. And we're going to get into why that's just simply not true, right? It's not, it's slightly. So you're getting ahead of me, Chematology. Let me get my cigar ready. Now, although today is not the last day you can reserve your room here in San Antonio, it is the last day that you can reserve your room without me having to pay for a whole bunch of extra rooms and then have to resell those rooms afterwards. So I still need y'all to go onto the link go to @CoachRans33. Click on the link click on the description of this video, and you'll see the link for the hotel to reserve your room. You don't have to pay any money yet, but we're having a meetup event here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. If it is past the 29th, then contact me in the DM, and I can still get you into the hotel room with the discounts, with the free breakfast, with the free supper, and everything. So today we're going to talk about Joseph and his Technicolor dream coat, Joseph the Dreamer, and how it is a stolen historical story. The story does have some historicity to it, but it's a stolen historical story that has absolutely nothing to do with Israelites. Absolutely nothing to do with Israelites. So we're going to break this down and welcome any challenge to the story. But first, you have to understand, what does the Bible say about this character, Joseph? You're going to find the Joseph story in the latter half of Genesis. If you go through it, Abraham has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob. Jacob, who becomes known as Israel, has a plethora of children, right? Half the children are coming from his slave wives. The next larger number are coming from Leah, and then you have 2 kids that comes from Rachel, the one that he actually loved and the only one that he actually wanted to marry. Yeah, I know you. Thank you for waiting. I appreciate the patience, Debbie. So Joseph is like the youngest child that is born from Rachel, which is his favorite wife, right? So as a word to everybody who gets into polygamy, one of the things you cannot have is a favorite wife. You may have a favorite. This wife may cook better, and this wife may do this better, but you cannot have a wife that you love more than the others. Now, the only reason that they had 12 children, they had this whole baby race, is because Leah was trying to gain the love of her husband, Jacob. But she thought that by having babies and having more babies and having babies through her slave wives, that she would acquire that love. But Rachel had 2 of his kids, and so he loved those kids more. So he loved Joseph more. He loved Joseph so much more that it created a violent situation between Joseph and his brothers. And in the situation, Joseph gets a little dream coat. He has a dream. In his dream, he says that, hey, my brothers, he tells his brother that they're going to be beneath him. He's going to rule over his brothers. So Joseph is an arrogant little bastard of a son, little crybaby youngest one. And I know about being the baby of the family, the baby boy. You can be arrogant because you feel like you get more love, right, than the rest of them. So the brothers get tired of his bullshit. I'm giving you guys the abridged version. The brothers get tired of this bullshit. And so they throw him in a pit. Throw his ass in a pit. Now, there is a little bit of a controversy within the story. In one version of the story, he's thrown in the pit, and then some people come and find him, and then they go and they sell him, right? Sell him as slaves. In another version of the story, the brothers sell him as slaves. So you do have two variations. We don't know who actually sold him as slaves or who sold him as a slave. And then in one of the stories is one group of people that sell him to Potiphar. The other time is that group of people sell him to another group of people who then they sell him to Potiphar. So there's a little confusion within the storyline as to who sold him to Potiphar and who didn't, who sold him as a slave and who didn't. But needless to say, he sold as a slave. The brothers lie to their father, say that he was killed by a wild animal, had some blood on this special coat that his daddy gave him, and his dad is in mourning for his son, right? And then, so he's in Egypt. He's working for Potiphar. Potiphar, he's doing such a great job, but then Potiphar's wife want to bang him. She want that ping ping. And so Potiphar's wife then said, like, oh, he tried to take advantage of me. And he's like, nah, bro. Ain't nobody trying to mess with your wife. She lying. She lying. I'm telling you, she lying. But Potiphar, of course, he takes the side of his wife, and he's like, nah. So he throws his little ass in jail, right? So he gets thrown in jail. But while he's in jail, he sitting there with the king's cupbearer and the king's baker. The king, and both of them, they have a dream. He interprets the dream, tells the baker, hey, look, you're going to be free, but then the king going to have a problem with you and he's going to kill you. Cupbearer, you're going to be free, but the king going to like you. But hey, when he don't forget, I told you this dream shit. All right. Cupbearer goes, baker gets out, does some stuff, gets killed. Cupbearer gets out, king's all right with him, Pharaoh's all right with him, rather. And he forget about Joseph for a while. But then the Pharaoh has a dream. 7 sickly cows, 7 healthy cows. None of his seers can interpret the dream. Cupbearer remember this dude in jail named Joseph, and then he tells Cupbearer, hey, look, Cupbearer said, hey, when I was in jail with the bullshit that you put me in jail for, there's a little joker there. He interpreted my dream and said that I'd be in the position I'm in, and he said you don't kill the baker. So when you kill the baker, now I'm in my position. So hey, you need to check this little dude out. So the Pharaoh's like, all right, bring him up. He comes up, tells the Pharaoh, you're gonna have 7 years of famine, and then you're gonna have 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. And that in order for you to avoid societal collapse, is that you need to go, I got a plan to avoid the societal collapse. Pharaoh's like, bet. So look here, I'm gonna put you in charge of everything. You the second in command of all of Egypt. Now, you gotta remember that part. Pharaoh makes him second in command of all of Egypt. That was the Bible said. So Joseph goes, he's second in command. Joseph do some bullshit. I want y'all to think about this. Imagine this. I want you to put this in your own terms, your own thought process in modern day. Joseph goes and he collects a tax from all the people, like 10% of the grain, 10% of everything, 10% of the grain, man. So he collects 10% of the grain, increase all these, build cities just to store the grain, all the grain of Egypt. And he collects this tax from the people. So imagine the government coming and collecting a tax from everybody, right? From all the people in America, as they already do. But then when the famine comes, the same thing he collected from the people, he's now selling back to the people. Okay. And so the people now got to buy the actual grain that they actually grew themselves. Right. So they're buying their own stuff back because the government took it. The government's not giving it to them. The government didn't hold it like it's Social Security. and then say, we're going to give you some of this, we're going to give you your grain back in this time frame because we saved it for you. No, he's selling it back to the people. Now, during this time frame, Joseph's family shows up. There's this famine that is affecting Egypt, is also affecting the surrounding areas. So Joseph's family shows up, the brothers show up, and he's like, look, he first go through this whole rigmarole of, y'all don't know who I am, and then hold your little brother, y'all stole some shit, and y'all didn't, and I'm gonna kill your little brother. But then they go bring the whole family back. He's like, hey, it's me, it's me. And they all like, oh, it's Joseph, baby Joseph, and he forgives us, great, great, great. But then he pulls some slick shit. He sends his family up in Goshen, right? Because this is part of the plan, the plot, the evil of Joseph. So he collected all the grain. The people are paying him for the grain that they grew, which is some bullshit. So then Joseph, after the people can't pay anymore, he then tells people, okay, you still need some more grain, because remember, this is going to last for 7 years. So when you can't afford to buy the grain anymore, because of course you're going through a famine, so your crops are failing, you need some food, so on and so forth, Joseph started telling people, well, I'll take all your cattle. Now, you can pay for your grain with cattle. So now he's taking the people's cattle, which is money to people back then. That's their livelihood. And then he tells the Pharaoh, my family is really good with being shepherds. So what if they are the shepherds to all your cattle, right? And Pharaoh's like, cool, you already saving the kingdom, and we making more money as a kingdom than we ever have during a famine. So this is like the government making more money during the time frame of a recession. And he's sending the cattle up to Goshen up with his family, and they living life fantastic, right? Living life fantastic. So then when the people don't have any more cattle, the people are sold to Joseph as slaves, to the Pharaoh as slaves. So now the Pharaoh is collecting everybody to be slaves except for the Israelites who are up in Goshen because the nepotism that's going on. And so Joseph takes them, he continues this process, and he's held as a great guide to them, to the Pharaoh. But after a couple of 100 years, so the famine is over, the Israelites are living life fantastic, they working for the king, so they got good government jobs, right? Working for Pharaoh. And then after that, some time goes by, about 200 and some odd years goes by. And the Pharaoh, the Bible just says the Pharaoh forgot about Joseph and then started being cruel to the Israelites and making the Israelites, he enslaved the Israelites. The Israelites suffer for another 200 some odd years, about another 200 years. And then the Moses story starts. Oh, this is one of those situations where if the Joseph story is not true, then the Moses story cannot be true. The Moses story is not true, then the Israelite story is a made-up story. And then that means the Jesus Messiah story cannot be true, right? That it's all made up. Kingship of David made up. Kingship of Solomon made up, right? Now they may have been kings, David and Solomon, but as far as a lineage that goes back to the time frame of Adam, all of that stuff would be made up. As far as God creating Adam and then going into Seth and then into Shem, and to Noah, then Shem, and then into Abraham, and then Joseph and Moses, that entire lineage is false, which makes the God false if this story is not true, right? So then the whole Messiah concept would not be true. This is why these things are important. So is there any historical information that would support the biblical version of Joseph, that Joseph actually existed? And the answer is a resounding no. But let's get into some of the confusion of what apologists will say is proof of the Joseph story. Now, chematologist, he said Joseph equals Amenhotep. He's not a believer, but many have tried to say that the story of Imhotep is the story of Joseph. But that story of Imhotep is completely implausible. And in order to understand that, we have to first create a timeline. We have to understand the timeline of these stories. Yes, I can't wait to move. My neighbors irritate me. So Solomon, the story, according to the story, according to first or second Kings, chapter 6, Solomon says that in that 4th or 8th year of his reign was 480 years from the time frame of the Exodus, right? So Solomon is about 980 BCE. Right? I know y'all can't see. Let me move this over so you can see, kind of see it. About 980 BCE. I know it's backwards, but y'all will be all right. 480 years would make that around 1460 BCE, right? Of the Moses story. From Moses to Joseph, anybody know what the time frame is from Moses to Joseph? No, I'm not moving moving. Yeah, well, I'm just moving to the other side of San Antonio where more of our lifestyle, we would enjoy more of our lifestyle. We just want to be closer to where we do things. And then just a better part of where we live, like 3, 4, 5 miles away, there's a waste management company, and the wind blows that shit over here every like once a week or once every other week. We move. So that's the other reason, and just closer to where my wife was. But anyway, so we're not moving out of San Antonio. So you got around 1486 will be the time frame of the Exodus. And there's about what between Exodus and Joseph, how many years do we have? How many years do we have? I forgot what the actual number is. Let me check it real quick. Because we're gonna do biblical. This is the biblical math. All right. We're gonna look at the biblical math. Roughly 150 to 200 years. Joseph died around 110 years old. All right. So they sojourned in Egypt for 430 years. So they were in Egypt for 430 years. So we got add another 430 to the mix. So the time frame of Joseph is going to be about 981 BCE. So the time frame of Joseph, according to the Bible, is going to be around 1890 BCE. So for those who counted in centuries, that's going to be the 19th century BCE. That's important. Got to remember 19th century BCE for Joseph, beginning of the Joseph story when he first came to Egypt. Right? The Moses story is going to be about 15th century. Well, here. About 15th century BCE. All right. Keep that in mind. Do we all have that in mind? The Moses story is 15th century BCE. The Joseph story is 19th century BCE. Here's why the 19th century BCE is important, and the idea that Imhotep, of how the Joseph story is the stolen story, that parts of it comes from this story involving Imhotep. All right. So in and around the 27th century BCE, there is the story that you can find on the Famine Stela. And the Famine Stela is huge, big ass on the side of a rock. The famine stela talks about how King Drozer, fully Egyptian, fully Cushite Egyptian, King Drozer had a dream. In his dream, he found out there was going to be 7 years of famine. He then brings in his priest, his chief priest, Imhotep. He tells Imhotep what's going on, what the dream he had, and then they say, well, no. I'm saying that story wrong. The famine's still on. King Drozer is recognizing that the Nile River is not flooding in its normal flooding cycles. So because it's not going in its normal flooding cycle, he brings in Imhotep. Imhotep is like, we're going through this famine. So the Nile River is, the goddess of the Nile River is the goddess Hapi, which is the hippopotamus-headed goddess. And so he's like, we got to go to the beginning of the Nile. For them, they believe the beginning of the Nile was at Elephant, which is a little island in the middle of the Nile River that separates two land masses, two kingdoms. So they go down there. While there, Imhotep cleanses himself, gets into his whole prayer ritual situation. He has a dream. In the dream, the god Khnum comes to him. Khnum is like, you're going to have 7 years of famine, but since you've come down here, you've honored me and everything, I'm going to be good to you. I'm going to release the Nile River, and it's going to end this famine that you're having, right? So my bad, I did say it right the first time. Joseph did have a dream of a continued famine. And then he's like, look, since you guys came down here and did this, I'm going to release the waters and the famine is going to be over. So then King Drozer says, hey, go down there, rebuild the temple, make it nice, remodel it, make sure that they get all their sacrifices and everything to Khnum. And the god Khnum is happy, and the 7 years of famine is over. And that's it. That's it. There is no stealing from the people their stuff, only to charge them for it later. But that's it. And because Imhotep goes through this portion and had this dream, people try to say, oh, Joseph equals Imhotep. No, he doesn't. They stole a part of the Imhotep storyline and added it to him, to Joseph. What other thing that happened that they stole some of the storyline in order to create this Joseph guy? Well, in and around the 17th century, the Hyksos, and this is where a lot of people are going to get the idea that the Israelites who came out of Egypt were the Hyksos. But the Hyksos came in because of a famine. There was a famine going on around the mid 17th century BCE. And so the Hyksos came in. They didn't come in and work for Pharaoh at the time frame. No, they came in and they conquered northern Egypt. Conquered. The Hyksos are various groups of Semitic people. They're not just one Semitic people, but they're various groups of Semitic people who came together, conquered northern Egypt, established their own line of pharaohs, and they built temples. And in those temples, of course, they drew the temples that look like themselves in the city of Avaris. So you can say Avaris. And so they made Avaris their capital city. They reigned there for about 150, 180 years that they reigned before the Upper Egypt finally came in and kicked their ass and kicked them out. When they kicked them out, the Hyksos returned back to the Levant, which then Egypt went on and conquered up through the Levant. So all those different Hyksos are just the various Canaanite groups that then were living under Egyptian control as a vassal state after they got their ass kicked out. The Bible tries to take the Hyksos storyline and make that into an Exodus story. The Hyksos is really more attached to the Moses story, as them stealing the story and making it their own, than it is the Joseph story. Because Joseph came in as a slave. his family came in as subjects to the Pharaoh. They were not in any form or fashion conquerors of northern Egypt. So there is absolutely zero historical evidence of Joseph. This entire story has been remixed in and around the somewhere in around the 9th century BCE, around the ninth, somewhere between the 9th to the 6th to 9th to the 7th century BCE, with the family line of Hezekiah and Josiah. This story was remixed from the known history of the Hyksos, the known history of Imhotep and Drozer, and made into this Hebrew story, and them making false claims and creating a false heredity, as well as mixing in other stories from other people groups to make a false heredity. Beyond that, and I want you to think about something. If Joseph, when you go to Avarice, you will see that and one other problem, none of this shit could have happened anyway, because it claimed that the Israelite slave built the city of Pi-Ramses. Pi-Ramses wasn't built until the 13th century BCE. So it's 200 years after the so-called Exodus story with Moses. So it wouldn't work. It has to be around 1200, in the 1200s. And that's also when Ramses existed as Pharaoh, right? So we have zero history of Joseph. Now, even with the Hyksos being in control, people like to say, oh, the Egyptians don't write about when they lose. But they got all the stuff from when the Hyksos kicked their ass, conquered them, and was ruling southern Egypt. Well, lower Egypt, or up where the Delta area. All that history is there. Ain't no Joseph. They were Semitic people, the Hyksos, but Semitic just means you come from a similar language family. Kind of like what we call the Romantic languages, the languages that are born from Latin, Italian, French, Spanish. Those are languages born from the Latin. But there is a distinct difference between the French, the Spanish, the Italians. They all different people, different history. English is a Germanic language. German is a Germanic language. Most of your Dutch and Finnish and all those languages, Holland, are Germanic languages. But the British people are very different from the Germans and have very different histories. So Joseph is not anywhere in history, and is not the Hyksos story. And it's just a biblical lie to create a history. But without that history, then the Jesus story is invalid. Because you won't have Moses, you won't have Joshua, you won't have any of those people. You have maybe a warlord named David, who then begins creating his own history. And we know people do that. Hell, Haile Selassie. Yeah, I'm from Menelik II. Ain't got no proof. Ain't got no proof. When they thought that King Arthur was a real person, British royalty used to claim that they were from the King Arthur. No proof. People claim that they're from Charlemagne, but you have no proof that you're from Charlemagne. People have done that all throughout history. Alexander claimed to have born from he was a demigod. Romulus and his brother were sired by a she-wolf, and built Rome. People made up these bullshit stories and people believed them. Joseph is a fake story. Let's see. Somebody want to come on TikTok? Well, maybe they don't. But the story is not real. The story is fake. And if it's a fake story, like I said in the beginning, if Joseph And all the biblical story narrative about Joseph never happened. Then going backwards to Adam, that didn't happen. So that means going forward, there is no Moses and there is no Joshua. There was probably some warlord who then started conquering Canaanite cities during the Bronze Age collapse. And after the conquering of the Bronze Age collapse, you might have had a Samuel or a Saul and then a David, but David most likely was just another warlord himself and created their own history. And then tried to legitimize themselves by saying that, oh, we come from an ancient time. Our God, Yahweh, created Adam and Eve and then went through this process of separating with Abraham and so on and so forth. And we come from this God, and this is the lineage of that. But if all of that is false, then the entire house of David into a Messiah Jesus is then just a house of cards. It's just made up. And what information if you got information that defies that, I would love to see it or hear it. Is Joseph Jesus dad? Isn't Joseph from there? I'm talking about the Joseph from son of Rachel and Jacob. Son of Rachel and Jacob, not the Jesus daddy. Yeah, and Fred Jones, yeah, they say that Moses wrote the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, but Moses didn't write any of it. Plus, he would have been writing about his death. Fred Adams, this has can you just all people got the story is real, point blank. What evidence is there of the Joseph story actually happening? There is none. And you got to think about it. If Joseph was the second most important person in Egypt, we got a history that tells us about Imhotep. We got other officials, information about other officials throughout the history of Egypt. If this famine was going on to the degree that it is claimed, if this exodus happened in the degree that it is claimed, we would have some type of history that demonstrates that this Joseph person, who was the second most important person during one of the most tumultuous times of Egypt, we would have evidence that he existed. He would be right there alongside the king, the Pharaoh, that the Bible proclaims that he was second in command under. Christor, you are the Trinity. Show me some magic. Human beings could be the evidence. Just because I exist, that could be the evidence that the Aztec and Mayan story is true, that we're made from Quetzalcoatl, made from some corn and some dirt. Human existence is not a proof of a God. You can let that one. That's one of those weak arguments. Okay, Joseph had Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. One of his 12 sons was Benjamin. I am an Israelite. That has nothing to do with the fact that Joseph never existed. It has nothing to do with the fact that Jacob never existed. And if you're Israelites, let's see your family history. Where's your family history that shows that? Where's your family history? Let's see that lineage. And I know when people don't have an argument, when all they say is that's not true. That's not true. Prove it. Where is your proof that Joseph actually existed? Outside of a biblical narrative, because if all we did was, if we said that narratives make things true, then we will be able to say that the monkey god is true. Because we can believe in Hanuman then, because there's narratives about Hanuman. So Hanuman is true. I'm answering your question inquiring about family history. Well, my mother's name was Maria. My mom's name was Mary. That make Jesus' mama real? I'm Joseph Miguel Ray Christ. That's my name, Christ. Sorry, Joseph Miguel Ray Christ. That's my name. That don't mean shit. I name my children. That doesn't make somebody naming you don't mean nothing. Oh, we were scattered and our history and language destroyed. So you just make shit up. You just accept a narrative and just accept that and say, oh, okay, our stuff was destroyed, so I'm gonna pick that. Mm-mm. That always amazes me about the people, the especially the Black Hebrew Israelites. I'm just gonna pick a tribe. I'm gonna pick a name, and because my name is this, and I'm gonna pick some shit. I ain't got no proof of nothing, but I'm gonna pick it. That's how people like, oh, I'm gonna pick the Egyptians. My family ain't got shit to do with Egypt. My heritage has nothing to do with Egypt. Mm. I was hoping that I ain't got no Christians or Israelites that got any proof. I was expecting some proof. I was expecting some proof. I knew I was gonna get Imhotep, but Imhotep is the timeline doesn't match for Imhotep. Abraham and his family found pyramids. Abraham, the Bible is an interesting thought that the Bible doesn't mention pyramids at all. The closest thing you get to a pyramid is the ziggurats for the story of Babel. But there are no pyramids. It doesn't mention something that if they were in Egypt, they would have noticed big ass pyramids. Hmm. Oh, big ass sphinx. I respect you. I asked. Oh, I didn't see that you was asking the question about the Israel is true. I'm sorry, my bad. I misunderstood you. So no, the story is not true. The story is just a made up story. There is no evidence that Jacob wrestled with God, changed his name to Israel, had these 12 children with a baby race between his four wives, and that Joseph went to Egypt and was second in command. If anything, the history demonstrates that Joseph never existed, right? That it is that they took these stories and manipulated them in order to make it fit into their own story. So, no, the Hebrew story, the entire Pentateuch, First 5 books of the Bible are made up fantasy novel, right? It's all a fantasy novel. Second, let me write this down so I look it up. See where it's around. Where is that? Second Chronicles 18. You can't prove that the Bible made this up. Yes, we can, because there's no evidence that any of the things in the Bible happened, and it goes against what actually happened in history. There is absolutely no time frame where there were 600,000 slave Israelite men and then possibly 2 million Israelite slaves that then exodus out of Egypt. They never existed in Egypt like that. Semitic people, the only time they was in Egypt in large numbers is when they were in control of the Nile Delta, and they were the Hyksos people. They were known as the Hyksos, which is a various groups of Semitic people. And then they were defeated and forced out of northern Egypt somewhere in around the mid 17th century, mid to late 17th century. Well, all the way up to the 16th century. They ruled like, yeah, from the mid 17th century to the late 16th century. So around the early 15th century, late 16th century is when the Hyksos was kicked out of Egypt, but they were destroyed. They were defeated in battle. It wasn't an exodus by way of letting slaves leave. So if we are going to say that simply a narrative makes something true, then boy, are there so many stories for you to read that you will believe are true. If narratives are the hallmark of truth. Y'all hear that shit? You hear that? You hear my neighbor's dog? So sick of it. Feel like I'm being annoying at this point, but I also feel I'm being ignored. If you're paying attention to Fred Adams, you probably would feel annoyed. So do I. Fred Adams and James Williams, they're annoying. If Eden existed, Eden is up under the Persian Gulf. The place that is most likely referring to is under the Persian Gulf. And that space would have been lost during the Younger Dryas flood, as that is what created the Persian Gulf. I've heard of the Cathars, but what's the conversation there? 553 years old. I wouldn't mind living to be 553. Get to see a lot of shit. You could go to TikTok settings and click on pause background noise. So I guess you can hear that damn dog. see, settings, hear your voice. I don't want to do that. I don't see where it lies. No, that's not gonna be the right area. I don't know. Usually they're not out there making this much noise. Oh well. We are gonna have to deal with it for next on this one. I'll look into that for our live tomorrow, which we should start at 12 noon tomorrow. And you know what? I hate to do it. I'm just gonna close this window. And then I'll just run my air purifier after we finish. And then we'll be all right. We'll be all right. Let's see. Let me go back and see what I missed here as far as some of you guys. And so I understand what you're saying, Randall. Randall said that if believers weren't trying to insist that Joseph's story was true, perhaps we would see the message in the story instead of wondering if it was real. Now, a believer will try to tell you, and some of them will try to say that all these stories are allegories and whatnot, that these people never existed. The problem with that, if the people never existed, then the Jesus character cannot be the Messiah, because then the whole God and the lineage from that God would all be just a made-up story as well. So Jesus would just be a made-up, Jesus Messiah would just be a made-up title from a made-up heritage, because he has to sit on the throne of David. You can't sit on a throne of a made-up lineage and claim it to be real. And that's the problem with all these religions that are based on God created these people, these two people, or these groups of people, and then these group of people, this God watched over them and then led them to this and that, so that people can learn lessons and be redeemed to this God. If none of those people stories are true, then there is no God that you need to be redeemed towards. That God is not a God to be redeemed towards. That's not a God that needs to be worshipped, that needs to be paid attention to. His rules, regulations, none of those things would actually matter, because what reason would you have to fear of hell and hope for heaven if that God is not real? So even if they were trying to teach a lesson from it, now if they were just trying to teach a lesson from it, then it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't need names. You wouldn't need a whole storyline. You would say that it's not real. And then you would have to have a different revelation of what God is in order for you to perpetuate that story, even if you're just trying to get a lesson out of it. What's the other name? You got to have the other name in order to say that Joseph is real. So William Gray is saying Joseph is real, but other names, Egyptian. If Joseph is real, but it's under a different Egyptian name, what name would that be, so that we can identify it in history? And then you would have to be able to identify the events and the people so that the biblical story becomes true. But there is actually zero time frame in Egyptian history that would fit the biblical story, and not even fit it at 50%. You can't even get 50% of this narrative out of any one time frame in Egyptian history. You can't even get 50%. Whether we're looking at Drozer and Imhotep, and you're trying to say Imhotep and Joseph is the same, it's not even 50% of the story. It's not even 50%. If you're trying to make it during the time frame of the Hyksos, it's not even 20% of the Joseph story would fit the Hyksos, the Hyksos history in Egypt. So there's no time frame in Egyptian history where the biblical narrative about Joseph, the Exodus, could have ever happened. Which then makes the whole story fall apart. The whole story now falls apart because you cannot, there's no way to identify any of those things happening. Pluto, I used to think that as well. If we can get into the Vatican basement, then we would know the truth. But even getting into the Vatican basement, you still wouldn't know. You wouldn't know the truth of what actually happened. You would just know the lies and sequences of lies that has been told in order to facilitate the religion, keep the religion, and make the religion the power structure that it is. Because what you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that they just say is this and say is that. A whole bunch of writings and documents from first century people, second century people, third century people, mostly second, third, fourth century. You're not going to see anything that would validate the Old Testament. And that's an interesting, Casper said, and let's look that up. Let's look that up. That's one of the problems that we have with Joe story. I had researched this on Saturday, so I mean Friday, so some of the things I forgot. Um, so because there are different variations of the story. So you just did a basic reading of it. It says that it was Judah was the one who suggested selling Joseph into slavery by some passing Ishmaelite traders, right? And through all of Joseph's brothers agree who were involved in the sale, they pulled Joseph from his cistern and sold him to the merchants for 20 pieces of silver, and who took him to Egypt. But according to other parts of the Bible, it said that it was Midianite traders who sold Joseph to Potiphar after they bought him from Joseph's brothers. So was it Ishmaelites or was it Midianites? So we don't really know. And they try to say that they might have been a group of mixed heritage people, but one part of the Bible says Ishmaelites, the other part says Midianites. If this is supposed to be the inerrant word of God, then there shouldn't be a confusion. It should just be one. They either sold them to the Midianites or they sold them to the Ishmaelites. Which one? Right? Even though some Christians may say, oh, that's a minor mistake, it's the Bible, it's the word of God. It's supposed to be 100% inerrant, but you can't have 100% inerrancy if you can't even get small details right. If you got small details wrong, how many big details are wrong? Yep, don't do the all caps, Evan. Appreciate it. No all caps. Yeah, and Christoph, you two over there on TikTok, all them all caps, I ignore the shit out of them. The Bible is human history. It's not rocket science. You people just don't have understanding of scripture. This guy's a complete moron. Yeah. So you believe that human existence didn't start until 4700 BCE, roughly around 4700 BCE, even though we have all the scientific information that demonstrates that scientific, archaeological, anthropological, genealogical, uh, geological information that demonstrates that human existence has been around longer than 4700, 4600 BCE, but we're the morons. We got whole civilizations existing before the Adam and Eve story, but we're the morons. You have an imaginary God, but we're the morons. Yeah. Ah. Exactly. Prepare. We got so much physical information that demonstrates human existence was long before the biblical narrative even starts their creation story, and yet you want people to think that, oh, that the Bible is human history. The Bible is human history. Around 2500 BCE, you got three men, three women, and they are the ones who repopulated the earth when you had civilizations who were already around during that time, before it, during it, and after it. But they started civilization again. No, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir, no, sir. There is zero history of that. Christopher, why are you on here? You are not within the conversation. You're talking about stuff that not even remotely close to what I'm talking about. Looking kind of trollish, my guy. But this is why you have to delude yourself in order to believe in religion. Because think about what the person had said about this is human history. That means you have to ignore all the evidence of science, the physical evidence, to still accept the Bible as a true narrative. And if the Genesis, if any of the actual stories of Genesis does not have proof in history, then the entire Bible falls apart. The whole Bible then falls apart because now it is all based on a lie. And if your storyline is based on a lie, then your entire story, everything thereafter, is not worth the paper that is printed on. It's not. What up, bulk? What should I call you?
Just call me Demir.
Demir? And are you over 21?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Are you a believer?
I am a Muslim, so I'm not a Christian though.
You're what?
I'm a Muslim, man.
Okay. So this page is about deconstructing Christianity. And
no. I just want to, give some ideas to it. What are you, an atheist or something?
Yep. What is your thought on the Joseph story?
I would like to talk about Islam or something.
Excuse me? What? I hear you.
Talk about Islam.
I don't talk about Islam here for the most part. I've never Islamic, never really. I studied it for like a year, and so it's not like what I discuss here mostly. Unless you want to talk about the Joseph story, what is there to talk about?
Oh, okay, my bad. All right. Good luck to me.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah. If you want to talk about Islam, go to a Islamic page. Go to a deconstructing Islam page. Go to those pages. There are plenty of pages where where Muslims and Christians are fighting one another about who's got true religion. I used to somewhat entertain the Muslim conversation, but I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. It's not really worth the time. Now here's funny. Fred Adams is a Christian, but this is the Christian hate. I'm assuming this is a response in the fact that I'm not going to talk about Islam because you don't know it, and the devil will not allow you to. That's why. You would think that Fred Adams would have enough sense to support my thought process of not discussing Islam since he's Christian. What sense does it make that you would want me to discuss Islam? It's kind of like how Fred keep on asking me about the Anunnaki, but I don't believe in the Anunnaki. So why does he keep asking me about the Anunnaki as if I believe in the Anunnaki? Right? Unless we're doing a talk about the Anunnaki story and how the Christianity or the first 5 books of the Bible steal from those stories as well, what is the point of asking me that over and over again? Unless you have the most simple of minds. It makes absolutely no sense to me. None whatsoever. Was it Nita?
India, like India Davenport.
India. Okay, India. You over 21?
Yes, sir, 51.
All right. You a believer?
No, I'm not. In fact, it was some of your YouTube stuff that assisted me on my path, man. So it's a pleasure to be in your presence, so to speak, because I've been watching your stuff for a minute, and for me being a brother like you, it just gave me hope and gave me a little more solid ground to stand on to see someone your age that believe what I did, because you tend to think sometimes they're just the young kids, this and that, but
right.
I've had these beliefs for most of my life at this point. The stuff I heard you say, when I heard you say it, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I finally find someone, a black person that ain't totally engulfed in this stuff and just breaking out of it. So it was just so impressive. I showed your stuff to a lot of brothers I've been trying to talk to about it. They hear me in it, and it's just refreshing, man. I just think that I was just shocked. And I've always wanted to ask you, man, if you don't mind getting your live off track, what brought you here? What was your process? How did it happen for you?
Oh, no problem. And I appreciate you. Thank you for the accolades there. Glad that I was of assistance to you, and hopefully I continue to be of assistance to you. So my process actually, so I started questioning the Bible when I was about 9 years old. But I was questioning the Bible because I wanted the Bible to be true, right? So I was questioning it not to disprove the Bible, but I started questioning the Bible in order to understand it better, be able to apply it to my life, be able to receive all the gain that you're supposed to get from it, and not just like physical gain, material gain, but also the maturity, the emotions, all of it. So from about 9 until about 23, about 23, I was trying to prove the Bible, right? It was around 23 when I started saying that, okay, I still want to prove the Bible, but I'm seeing a bunch of stuff. Because now that I've been to Israel and I've been to, Saudi Arabia and Jordan and all these places, I've been here and I've seen these places. And I've studied with other people who were archaeologists and museum curators, that this stuff is not panning out. So I was very disturbed from about 23 to about 33. Because I was back and forth, and of course the internet came along. I'm sure you remember when the internet came along.
Indeed.
Yeah, because before that it was going to public libraries, college libraries, museums, national archives, things of that nature. Internet started making things easier. And like you, I felt by myself, like, because there was no one else around me for the most part that thought the way I thought. And we didn't have methods to communicate with each other. But between that 23 to 33 is when I started moving more and more away from the Bible. And then from 33 to about 37, I was more looking at Gnosticism as maybe a true thing, because, you know, I had, by that time frame, I had looked into Buddhism, in Islam, Taoism, Hinduism, Ifa, a bunch of other shit. And then around 37 is when I finally just was like, okay, this shit is just not true. After everything that I've studied over all these years, I just have to admit to myself that the Bible is a made-up story, generated to create a heritage for a group of people who was always in a war-torn situation. Right? And that is when I finally walked away from it, around 37. And that's when I started making videos. And as I said many times before, I started making videos not for y'all, but I started making them so that my children would have my information, because they couldn't understand what I was talking about. You know, at their ages, they could only grasp so much. But then just in case something happened to me, I wanted them to have a resource to go back to as they matured and got older. But that's when I started finding other people who thought the same way. But that was my journey. You know, I had a lot of support from a lot of pastors, actually, through the whole process. I had pastors supporting my process, supporting my research. Of course, they wanted me to have that dedicated landing spot that I was still going to believe. And I was offered scholarships to different seminary schools. But I didn't want to go to a seminary school like that. I had the Kennesaw Baptist Association offered me a scholarship to go to the Dallas Seminary. But I saw that I had to sign a document saying that no matter what I learned, I would still have to defend Christianity. So I was like, no, I don't want to go there.
Is that commonplace? That he has people to sign those documents? Is that commonplace?
For every every scholarship that was offered to me, every one of the schools had that same thing. So I can't say it was every school, but I know, like in Atlanta, the Bethula Seminary, they make you do it. Dallas makes you do it. I forgot that there was a school in Louisiana, they make you do it. And by that third time, I was just like, I'm not interested. If I go to school for seminary, it won't be seminary, it'll be religious studies. So, yeah, so I never went to those, but, you know, so I never had church hurt. Nobody ever did anything to me. Like I said, I had great support from pastors.
Yeah, that's an assumption. I get it that people throw at me too. You must have been traumatized by the church. Or somebody like, no, I had a good. In fact, my church back home, they thought I was going to be a preacher. When I left home, for good, they gave me a Bible and like $500. So they held me in high regard. And I got two uncles that are preachers now. So the family unit is always interesting. I've learned to be quiet now, because I know I'm not trying to get a good plate, if I keep popping off. So I just be quiet.
I understand. My family has learned not to ask me a question.
Exactly. That's not good. You don't speak anything remotely close to it.
Yeah. Now, some of them will say, they want to ask me a question, but they'll say, I don't want the real. I mean, they don't say it this way, but basically they telling me, I don't want the real. I want an answer to this simply that still falls in line with the Bible. You know what I mean? Like, they may ask me kind of some basic question. Like, let's say we're talking about this. They may ask me something like, what was the dream that Joseph had in Egypt? You know, and I would tell them what the dream was, and then they would want me to stop right there.
Yeah.
So they'll ask the question with a stopping point.
Gotcha.
But they never get into full religious debates or conversation with me.
Let me ask you this: your children, did you raise them with that understanding, or did you, try to raise them with the more societal understanding, or how did you do that?
Well, because of the way my life was going, they did their initial years was in the church, but even in the church, the questions that I had, I was still making sure they understood those questions. The missteps that pastors were making in their teachings, I made sure that I corrected whatever the sermon said that was wrong. When they were old enough, as they got older, I became a deacon of the church, became the chairman of the deacon board. But then as they got older, I taught teen church, and their mother taught children's church. So we made sure that they were not being taught by other people in the church who's just trying to push the propaganda. They're being taught by what we are saying and how we see it and the fullness of it. Then, me and their mom got divorced. They were still like 12, 8, and 7. So I still would teach them. I was teaching them what it really says, but I was also teaching them to think critically. I always taught them critical thinking from day one, though. Day one, they would learn critical thinking. And because I wanted them to come to their own conclusions, not my conclusions, not their moms, not their grandmothers, grandfathers, their own conclusions. And so now they're all adults and they all are at their own conclusions.
Gotcha.
And I can't say they're at a conclusion. They're still growing in it. There's only one that I know. They have their own conclusion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
My journey was, the first rift I saw, I was probably in the 8th grade or so. I don't know what age that was, but I remember I always remember school year most of the ages. And I had an aunt who was a little older than me, because back then they had children in their 50s. So I had an aunt who was like 4 years older than me. And she brought home a book of Greek mythology. And I was an avid reader even back then. And just like you, I was curious about the origin of things. So I would always break down my toys, take the walkie-talkie out, trying to see how did this work. That was just my thought process. So when I read that Greek book of mythology and I saw that Pandora story, I remember going to my grandma and saying, "Hey, grandma, it's just like Adam and Eve. Look what this woman did. It's just like the Adam and Eve story." And my grandma got furious. And that emotion that she displayed stayed with me. And I was like, why she feel that way? It's no big deal. That's my thinking. And that stayed in my mind until I was about 24. I was in the military, and a Muslim brother gave me a book called Non-Valid Contribution to Civilizations by this guy called Anthony Bro. I don't know if you heard of it.
Heard of it.
And and it was in that book that the lid just blew off of me. Like you back then, there was no internet. So I was doing a lot of library research, ordering books from Europe that took months to get to me. And I was emailing professors. I emailed a rabbi that was at some university in California. And I told him all the stuff I had saw in the book. And would he email me back? And I can't find an email to save my life. But I almost passed out. He said, well, he's right. None of that stuff is true. This is allegory. We accept this as these are just deeper meanings that educate us for wisdom. They're not to be taken literally. This rabbi told me this, man. I was like, what? I almost passed out. And it was from that point on, that's when it just started cracking open more and more. And I come to the same conclusion you. These are just myths told by people to explain what was going on politically in their environment at the time, meaning they were getting caught by all these people. So they had to make up stories to soften the blow, so to speak. And it is indeed a mix of other cultural ideas, cosmological ideas from that era. It is not genuine by any means. And that just blew my mind. And from that, though, it taught me something about, like you say, critical thinking. Because before then, I don't know how critical thinker was I, as an adult. But it blew the lid off for me. And it changes the way you think, the way you see the world, the way you see life. You learn to accept your own mortality, vulnerability, your mission in this world, your purpose, your human purpose, the one you define for yourself. So it really changed the way I think.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we seem to have a lot of similar. Our circumstances seem to have been a lot similar. What branch of service, by the way?
I was in the Army, man, chemical operations.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your service. Ain't really Marines yet. Appreciate you.
Oh, you was in the Marines?
Simplify, do or die.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, you're real. See, as you still my honest guy. I ain't like you all guys. I ain't gonna fight with y'all. Y'all got us. Y'all the roughest they come. Absolutely. I ain't gonna argue with y'all about that.
Yeah, but you know that the thing about it, I do find that a lot of guys who go to the military, because we start, you know how most people, they grow up in a town, they stay in that town, they never really move more than 50 miles from that town. You know, you kind of are, especially before the internet, you're trapped in whatever the mindset of the area that you live in. The beauty of the military is that it gets you out and you meet people from all over the place. And when you do, you start to realize that other people have other thoughts, other ideas. They grew up differently. And then to take that extra step to be able to communicate with a rabbi, because I didn't have a rabbi, but what I had was one of the curators at the Tel Aviv Museum. And he was the one that really opened my eyes back when I was 20 years old. I had just turned 20. So I was 20 years old in Israel, and he really opened my eyes. And you know, the initial thing that he opened my eyes to wasn't even something, it was major to me, but wouldn't be major to most people. You know how the Bible says that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of needle than a rich man to enter the gates of heaven, right?
Yeah. He
found me stuck. So when you go to Jerusalem back then in 1991, there was a Muslim market, and then you went through the eye of a needle to enter the old city of Jerusalem. And the little tour guide was like, "Oh, now you're all going through the eye of a needle," making a joke. "So you can all be rich because see how we're walking through this." Now, this is during Desert Storm, so I had just seen a camel like a couple of weeks prior to this. So I know how big a camel is. I'm looking at this damn gateway. I'm stuck. Tour group now left my ass. They gone. Because I'm walking back and forth. Because the thing that started my inquisitions was when I was 9, the pastor said that he held up a sewing needle and told everybody in that church, "You need to stop trying to get rich because rich people go to hell." I was poor at 9. My mom was working 2.5 jobs and was still barely able to feed us, you know? So poverty was not something I was going to live with. So when that pastor said that, it bothered me to my core. So here I am now, 10, 11 years later, and I'm learning what an eye of a needle really is. Because he walked up to me, he was like, "Oh, you're an American, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You just found out what an eye of a needle is?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah." He broke it down to me what it really means, right? That the camel had to take off all his bags. You can't ride the camel through it, you know, so it's about humbling yourself. But it was also that for the allegory, it was about taking off all your material things. But politically, it's only one camel can ride through at a time. So it stopped invaders, but it also allowed for the tax collectors at each city to be at each gate to know what they're going to tax you on. So it was like the immigration services. And so he broke it down to me what it meant literally, politically, and allegorically. And me and this dude pen pal for like 5 years, right? Where we had a book and that we were sending back and forth to each other. That way I had track record. Now, like you, I wish I still had that. But you know how that last military move worked? Those motherfuckers would be stealing how they steal your stuff.
Lost it all.
They stole all my stuff in that last military move. You know.
I had black jackets, the nice storm jackets they wear.
Man.
I had gas masks, all of it gone.
I had, dude, I worked in supply, so you can imagine what I had.
Oh my God.
You can imagine.
Supply.
Mm-hmm. So all my stuff was gone. But yeah, I had that. So having that resource made such a huge difference, you know, during those years. And people don't realize that if you, like now I tell people, use Google Scholar. You can find PhD papers on different subject matters. Like yesterday, I was reading one on the word yom, how the word yom is used in the Bible as far as what a day is. I was reading this PhD paper on it. Now we don't have to, you know, you can still communicate with these professors. and these rabbis and whatnot. But we don't even need to do that. We can find all these PhD papers have to be published, right? They're now published on the internet, I should say, right? And because they are published, you can go and read them and have that same level of understanding that people who are students are having right now. They going to school, they're researching this stuff for their own purposes and whatnot. And like the PhD, they're long though. Like the one I was reading yesterday is 100. I was just going to look at it real quick. It's 112 pages, right? And I know a lot of people are not going to read the 112 pages, but I read the whole 112 pages yesterday. Basically, the word yom that is used in the 6 days of creation and in most other places means a 24-hour day. When First Peter is referring to a day is like 1,000 years, it was being used as a simile and had no reference to the Genesis story whatsoever. Within the context of the writing, the time frame that it was being written, the way the language was being used at the time frame, it breaks all that stuff down.
Wow. Hey, and that's one thing I want to ask you too, man. I followed you. I'm gonna inbox your request. If you can, man, just send me a list of things that you think I should check out. Like the paper you just mentioned, books you read, things like that, man. And take your time with it. I know how that goes. Yeah. But I'm really interested in what you read.
I can tell you now, I ain't read a book in 10 years or more. Because once I discovered, but even before discovering Google Scholar, I was using Academia EDU, or I would go directly to like Harvard or Oxford or Yale's religious studies programs, and you can find their libraries online. And so the papers that the professors have put out, the syllabus that they put out, the reading list that they put out, you can find, I was finding all of their stuff that way. So, and then one religious study professor, I think he's either at Harvard or Yale. A lot of his class lectures are on YouTube. If you just type in like Harvard or Yale, religious studies professors,
gotcha,
you'll get a lot of their videos of what they're teaching in their classes, right? And it's almost like you become a student, but you don't have to pay for it or go through all the bullshit.
That helped me out too, because I did run into a lot of those videos and these seminars they have with these professors, these guys who spent years studying this stuff. And it was blowing my mind. Like, wow, the people who uphold the Christian affirmative position, they never have any solid evidence. It goes back to, well, I just have faith. I just have hope. Mm-hmm. What's a human being without hope? They always go back to things like that. It was nothing solid. And I was like, wow, this is a lot.
No, you're absolutely right. They saying a lot, but I'm sorry, I lost some of what you said. I'm sitting up here. I thought I understood what you said, but I missed some of it.
No, I was just saying, like, when I went to a lot of the those seminars on YouTube with those professors giving lectures, and sometimes they would debate other professors, and mostly it would be like clergy and things like this. They never had anything solid to stand on. Even the clergy that studied fields like physics, they would admit, in the natural world, this ain't the thing. But they would say, well, I just hope and I just believe. I just think it's beautiful to believe. Nothing to affirm what they said, what they do believe, just the fact they believe, and that was enough. I was like, well, that's not a lot. There are people of the Islamic faith who just believe. Hindus who just believe. That's not elevating you any further in my mind. So that was interesting to me.
And it is. And you can find those, and those are great. And especially, I love a lot of the debates that you can find with the different professors or archaeologists and all these other people, because what they provide for you is so much knowledge that you haven't thought about, or they provide resources for you. And when you see the ones debating, then it gives you different points of view that you can look at a subject matter from, so that you can have a deeper understanding.
I got one more question for you, bro. Why do you think it is people are reluctant or just rejecting of the scholarly approach to this stuff? Why do you think that is?
Because they're afraid of hell and they want heaven. They so indoctrinated into the concepts of heaven and hell that if you go through it from a scholarly point of view, then they feel they're going to lose their reward and avoid the consequences at the end. You know, and they just weak-minded like that. You know, think about how fearful it would be for a person to go from believing that they're going to go to this heaven and everything's gonna be great, and there's no weeping, no sorrow, to this is the life that you live, and you best enjoy the hell out of it, because after this, there ain't shit else.
Yeah.
You know,
That's a heavy pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And maintain your sanity. I can agree.
Because now you got to deal with it's evil in this world because people make those decisions to be that way. And evil is still subjective, even within itself. So now you have to kind of take on the responsibility that if you want the world to be better, if you want your life to be better, it's your responsibility. There's no scapegoat. You can't scapegoat anyone anymore. Right? You have to do it yourself.
Yeah. And what you just said is very important, man. It is so key to why I advocate that we move more into this understanding. My grandmother, she had like 11 kids. You know, she was born in, the old South, we're from Georgia. And one of my uncles, he was the black sheep of the family. You know, he had a lot of weird, deviant behavior. And the issue was he had a personality disorder. No one knew at the time. You know, there was a lot of mental health in my family that we're just now coming to grip with. Because again, the answer was he just got the devil in him. Right. And I think back to his life and how he was treated before we found out what was wrong with him, and the answers my grandma gave. And it was she just gave these old sayings that she had got to fill in for what she didn't understand. And that's what it comes down to. It's just whatever they don't understand, they'll insert that, and that'll be the answer. That's good enough. Let's keep it moving.
Right. And and see, that's the messed up stuff. And there's a lot of family trauma that goes on because people just want to put it off on this religion instead of having to deal with it themselves. Oh, and real quick, I think I'm saying the name right, but Shaoya, yeah, her name. She first put Dale Evans in there, but that's a woman, country western singer, lady. But Dale Martin he died in 2023, but Dale Martin is a Harvard professor. I think he's Harvard, but he's one of those scholars, those professors who was teaching at one of those schools that has some amazing lectures, some really good lectures on YouTube. Yale. He's at Yale. He's out of Yale. He was on Yale's faculty and at Rose College and at Duke before he went to Yale. But he's on Yale University. But some of his lectures are really good to listen to. I learned a lot from that dude. A little bald-headed dude with glasses. But for years, I listened to some of his lectures from like 2018 up until about up until he died. So that's a good source. Yeah. So me with sources, you're not gonna. I'm rarely gonna say a book because I ain't read a book in 10 years. Actually, it's been longer than that because 10 years will be 2015. I know I ain't read shit in 2015. So I probably haven't read a book since about 2006, 2008. No, yeah. So last time I read a book is when I owned a gym. So 2010, between 2010 and 2008 is the last time I read a book. Dale Martin. I typed it in the comments for YouTube and Facebook. Dale Martin. Great stuff. Thank you, Shaoya. Forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong. Great understanding. Great lectures. Most of the ones I remember were from the New Testament. Oh, so Shaoya is right. Okay. First time I've seen that name, don't get mad. I just broke it in half. Shaoya. But that's a good. I didn't. Hell, no, I don't believe that at all. His passing was more meaningful to me than some other people. I'm guessing you had a phone call, sir.
Yeah, my wife, man, she wasn't gonna let up, so I had to see. Yeah, you know, it was something simple, something she misplaced and blaming me for.
Hey, wife call. She is more important than any one of us.
Yes.
So
I already messed up. I didn't get it the first time, so I'm gonna have to hear that.
just, I know, and being on a live is not a good excuse. That ain't gonna work.
Speaking of get on lives now, she don't like it because she know I'm gonna get all into these conversations. Because my wife is a Haitian woman. She grew up as Catholic, and her mother and some of her sisters are heavily Catholic. So sometimes there's a conflict of interest with Ella and my daughter because they wanted her to have a Christian. I went with it. Sometimes I capitulate for the peace of things, but you know I'm just trying to figure out my wiggle room here without blowing up the whole spot.
Is your wife still Catholic?
No, she's not really. She never was. She's like one generation lukewarm, only entitled, didn't know much about it, just did it because of ritual and culture.
So, okay, so is she on board with you, or y'all just don't talk about it?
She's more or less on board with me. When we talk about it, she don't believe it really, but she don't have the base of why she don't believe it. Okay. So it seems like it's more because of the things I present to her. It brings doubt to her, but she never really read none of the stuff I present to her like that. And a lot of things she does to appease her mother and father.
Right, because I mean I understand that culture. I used to date this Haitian girl, so I understand the culture of that. But when it comes to, and this is just me, and I'm not one of those people who say I'm gonna let you discover your own pathway and all that bullshit. When I do my coaching, I'm gonna tell you. At the end of the day, you and your wife, if y'all are solid in how y'all want to raise y'all kids, to hell with their aunties and their grandmothers and all that, because I had to go as far as to tell the uncle and aunties on my kids' mother's side, and some of the jokers on my side. But I had to tell them jokers, look, you do whatever you want to do and teach your kids however you want to teach your kids, but what you're not going to do is try to push your shit on my children. Now, if that means that we can't get along and we can't be around each other simply because I'm telling you I'm raising my children and you're not, then you can go somewhere, because this is my important. This is my family. So, I don't tolerate other people trying to push that. Like one of my children's aunties and uncle was trying to push their Christian narrative on one of my children because they were discovering their sexual identity, and that they were trying to cast their Christian beliefs on their sexual identity. And I was like, hey, you don't talk to my child about that. I don't talk to your children about theirs and their issue. Don't talk to mine about mine. Because otherwise you cannot talk to my child, period. So all the other aspects of the relationship that you love with my child, you cannot have those, because I will give my child permission to tell you that to stop talking to them, because I raise my children to respect their aunts, uncles, grandparents, all of the older people in the family, and not to, you can state your mind, but do it respectfully. But at that point, I was like, no, I will give my children permission to cuss your ass out. And you can't do shit about it. Because you lay hands on them for cussing you out,
It is
the
harmful.
health not gonna be.
It is very harmful. These ideas, they're very harmful. Yeah, she got a sister who just went through a nasty divorce, and she fell so deep into that stuff now. She one of the ones that are married to the church, and you can tell it's just coping, and it's not really that because she didn't get to the root of what's going on with her.
Yeah, and see that coping, I ain't doing that coping. You know, that coping behavior, fuck that. You know, if you want to live your life in this sad state because it disagrees with the Bible and the people who are believing in this thing, then to hell with you and the horse. Then you're sad. You're a slave to this system now. Right? So no, when they try to force that, because I watched these two same adults. I watched the way they treated the uncle's son. He's not the son of the wife, but he was a child born ahead of time. I watched the way they treated him because, you know, he joined the LGBTQ community. And I watched the way they treated him and the distance between them and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, and then how he had to walk around on eggshells around them. I was like, fuck that. And eventually he just stopped being around them for a long time, for a long ass time. He was just like, nah, I just don't want to be a part of y'all. So you're breaking up your parental relationship because you want to believe in this book. And you just stuck on this one thing when your ass is still out here sinning. You know?
Yeah.
None of them watch this shit. None of them watch my show, so I can say this, and I don't really give a shit either, anyway. But I'm like, dude, you cheated all on your wife, but yet you want to hold your son to this standard, and your ass been cheating on your wife. Come on now, give me the real. You fake as fuck when you do that. You know, you commit sins every day, but you want to jump on this boy and have issues with him. So when they try to jump on one of my children, I was like, all the hell no. I drag y'all ass through the mud before you put that kind of mental damage and emotional damage on my child. Right? So it's like, hell no. So what I'm saying to you is take care of your children instead of trying to keep the peace. Fuck peace. The real peace is when you have it with you, your wife, and your kids. That's the real peace.
Yeah, I feel you on that, bro. I appreciate that, man. But hey, bro, listen, I'm definitely glad I caught you. I was scrolling through. I thought it was just one of your videos, and I said aloud, I said, "Oh my God, I gotta holler at this man." Yeah, man, it was a pleasure talking to you, bro. Really appreciate you, and keep up the work, man.
I appreciate you, and I go live usually at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday.
Gotcha.
All right.
You'll definitely see me up in here, man. Be good, bro. Nice talking with you.
Right. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. That's a sin. It's only a sin because you believe it to be a sin. I don't give a shit who people love, and this is even before it was something to deal with within my own family unit. I didn't think that a person who loved another person of the same sex was a sin. I thought that was bullshit. Now, when I was a Christian, of course I thought it was a sin. But then as the more and more I walked away from Christianity, I was like, it is what it is. And we are higher thought beings. We are not defined by our natural instincts. If we were defined by our natural instincts, then we would not be living in houses. We wouldn't be making clothes, building cars, airplanes, and all that bullshit. We wouldn't be innovating anything. We would still just be living as basic instinctual creatures. So the fact that two dudes love each other, two women love each other, I don't give a shit. As long as you ain't hurting somebody else, as long as you ain't forcing somebody else, that's your own business. As long as you ain't trying to force me to live a certain lifestyle, I don't give a damn. You want to have multiple wives, have multiple wives. You want to have multiple husbands, have multiple husbands. You want to have a red room in your house with St. Augustine cross and the little pony bench and whips, chains, and all that shit? Do you? You want to go to the orgy? Go do you. I don't care. As long as you don't come to me with no damn whips and chains trying to beat my ass, we good. We good. I don't do pain. So no, we good. But it's when you want to force your beliefs on everybody else, and then when you start taking people's lives because you want to force your belief on other people, you then have a problem. You then have a problem. And when I see pastors and Christians and they're so focused on one sect of people and want to put all that energy in that one general area, it's like what a pastor told me. Like Pastor Grant told me a long time ago. If you want to know what a pastor struggles with, listen to what they preach about the most. All right. And that's why he preached more about pornography than anything else, because he had a pornography addiction. All right. So if somebody's always coming up talking about the LGBTQ community, it's because you are struggling within that yourself, struggling with your own sexuality. Because that's what you talk about the most. And I thought that he was right, because I then started watching pastors closer, started evaluating and tracking what the different pastors talked about the most. And that gave me a great insight on those pastors. And then the more I got to know the pastors, I started seeing why they preach about that same thing over and over again. I had this one pastor. He always preached about women dressing modestly, women covering up, right? And then lo and behold, the more and more I got to know this pastor, he was a hound dog. He was a player. He done banged by half the women in the church. And this was a church of about 500-700 people. He was preaching about the way these women dress because he didn't have enough strength within his own self to not engage in sexual activities with the women of his church. And that's why he preached about them. So, yeah, keep on coming up here talking about gay people. You just letting me know. You just letting all of us know that you're struggling with your own sexuality. That's all you're telling us. Most likely. I ain't gonna say definitively, but most likely, that's all you're telling us. You struggle with your own sexuality. Just go be on the team you really want to be on, Fred Adams. You really want to worship the Anunnaki. That's why you keep on asking me about the Anunnaki all the time. Just go ahead and start worshiping Enlil and Enki. Fred Adams. You want to worship the Anunnaki because you keep talking about it. It's some other one of y'all. I forgot the other person. I always want to bring in about LGBTQ people. It's one thing when you're stating certain factual things when looking at certain things. Somebody had mentioned earlier here on the scroll how King James most likely was part of the LGBTQ community because he wrote love letters to some other dude. So they were exchanging love letters. So it's most likely he was. And then he's the one who organized the translation of the Bible that most Christians are following in Western culture, and especially in America. Right? There's one thing to point that out. It's a whole nother thing when you got the ones who harp on it. And then you got the ones who make the excuse. Well, look at God used David, and David wasn't a great person. God used Moses, he wasn't a great person. God used Noah, he wasn't a great person. Noah gets drunk one time. Well, he got drunk one time and then he cursed somebody else. He cursed Canaan for what Ham did. So he's a bad parent anyway. And this was supposed to be a righteous man. Nah. Fred, we know you're on that struggle bus. It's okay, Fred. We're here for you. There is no judgment on this side. All that judging that you do, there's no judgment on the other side. You got to be a Christian to judge. You got to be Muslim to judge. You got to be a religious person to judge. I want to make it to the Texas event. Never found the info. So Sphinx, go to my Facebook, YouTube page at Coach Renz, RENZ 33. Go into the description of this video, this live. Go to my lives, go to the description of any one of my recent lives. You'll see a link to the hotel so that you can reserve your room. Today is the 29th. You got to do it today in order to get the discount, right? You got to do it today. When you reserve your room, you don't have to pay for it today. You're just reserving it. It's going to ask for your card, but you're just reserving it. So do it today. Go to I'm at the YouTube. So you're on my YouTube page. Go into the description of this live or one of my other lives. And you'll see the link for the Drury Plaza downtown. Because we need to get these other, I don't know how many rooms got done up after last Thursday. But this Thursday coming up, I want to see that we've done the other 5 rooms have been reserved so that I ain't got to pay for 5 rooms and then get on here to say, okay, I need these 5 rooms taken care of. This is what you need to do so we can put your name on it. So they ain't got to pay for it. And the only thing that you have to pay for is your room. You get a free breakfast, you get a free supper. The places that we're going to do our meetups at, there's zero cost to those things, unless you buy some food, or at the Japanese tea garden, unless you buy some food or just your Uber ride to get there, or however that's about it. Everything else is at the hotel or walking distance from the hotel. Right? Because on that Friday night, we meeting at Devil's River, and then right around the corner, there's a rooftop bar with some Latin dancing. They had EDM. I wanted to stop by there this weekend, but they had EDM going on the night that we was downtown. I was like, I just wanted to shoot some videos so y'all can see like that place too. The lie starts on page 1 and ends at Revelation. It certainly does. Look at is Fred are you bearing false witness? Because Fred, if you don't show up, you bear false witness. You're gonna need forgiveness from Jesus. Yeah, Noah was a horrible person. So I shouldn't have said Noah wasn't that bad. Noah was actually terrible. So Isaac, you're right. I just read the first sentence and you're right. Noah was a terrible person. I don't care if God did come and tell me, hey, I want you to just save you and your children. No, his mom and daddy and probably grandparents, this is some other folks that were still alive. I'm gonna show some nepotism. I'm gonna be like, look, I may not like everybody. I need all y'all to show up and get on this boat with me. Yeah. I need y'all to get on this boat. We gonna save more than just my little crew. I'd be like, don't particularly care for this cousin, but I'm gonna need you to come get on the boat. Need you to get on the boat. Coach, would you appear on Jubilee? I don't understand what you mean by that, Randy. Would I appear on Jubilee? Can't find the disruption. Go to the live on Friday. Click in the description. Scroll down in the description. So don't do this live, Sphinx. Do the last Friday live. And because I don't think if I put that in this particular on the conversation here, I'm not sure if it will. Let me see. Let me try something. Since you say you're on the live for this particular live, right? on YouTube. Let me post the link in the conversation. And let's see if it works. Yeah. So I just posted the link in the comments of this video on YouTube. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but in the description you should be able to see it in the description. It should say https://www.druryhotel.com, book and stay, new reservation group, and a whole bunch of numbers. I can't put it on here on TikTok. I don't even know how to make a comment on TikTok while I'm talking. Yeah, I don't see where I can make a comment. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. I might have something here. I don't know if that'll work as a link. I don't know if you'll be able to click on that. I figured out how to make a comment while I'm on live TikTok. Isn't that something? I don't know. That probably won't work, but I'm not sure. I don't know how links work on TikTok. But I know it's on Facebook and YouTube. Yeah, all right. I need some more questions, need some more comments. I know I started late, but I still plan on ending at 3. Around 3. In around that time frame. I don't know why y'all keep talking, Fred. Oh. Hold on, bring it. Sphinx.
Yeah, what's going on?
How you doing, man?
I'm trying to turn this on. All right. Hey, what's going on, man?
How you doing?
Yeah, I've been trying to get this thing for weeks now. But look, I clicked on it, but it's saying whoops. It's like a broken link. I don't know if you can see that, but
I can't. I know there's a way for me to switch you to be on the big one.
Well, it says something went wrong, strange things happen here, whatever. But it does say make a reservation, edit the reservation and locations, all of that stuff.
And you was on you clicked it off of YouTube?
Yeah, because you put it in the link in YouTube, and I was able to take a screenshot, and then I could go to the picture and then click on the link. You can do that with iPhone. I'm not strutting. I'm just saying.
No, I just play.
This is Nebuchadnezzar.
I wish I know there's a way to make your picture the bigger picture.
Yeah, this is my car, Nebuchadnezzar. It's an RV.
Oh, you live in the RV life?
Yes, I'm a full-time RV guy.
Oh, you suck.
No, why not?
Cause I want to do that.
Well, you can show me some things, and I can show you some things, and you need to talk to me about it because I've been doing it for what, 7 years. So there's a real cheap way to do it that people don't understand how to do it, and I'm not gonna say that on live, but if you hit me up, I'll tell you all about it. And everybody I told about it, they're like, bro, I didn't know. I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah, let me see it again. You're on the big picture now.
Oh yeah, so this is the inside. It's messy, but this microwave.
Yeah, this is bullshit.
Refrigerator, freezer, and I got a bathroom right here behind this mirror. And I got a sink, a stove, and back there is like a couch and a bathroom. I'll show you the outside.
So you were on the Class C or Class A? Oh, you doing the Mercedes van? Oh, you doing the van style?
I'm in New York City.
Y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all, Sphinx, New York City sucks. It makes me sick.
I'm in the city.
So yeah,
I do city life only because like I have to make money here. So you need to make money doing this type of stuff. So
you do have a page about you living this RV van life, right?
I have a slight bit of a vlog on YouTube, but I got to do a lot better.
Dude, the RV life, full-time RV life shit is blowing up on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook.
Yeah, this is what I do too.
You missing money.
This is what you probably need me for.
What the hell is? Oh shit! You got all the cameras. Man, my wife would be so jealous about that. She loves photography.
Yeah, I do a lot of cinematography. I shoot videos for people. I've been working with Graph, Busta Rhymes, a lot of artists and stuff like that. I even do weddings and a number of stuff.
I'm jealous. I'm officially jealous.
Well, I'm gonna come. I want to look. Remember weeks ago, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna come, but I every time I try to get the information, I was never able to get it.
So show me what it did when you went on to. I know this ain't what we talking about. Y'all be all right.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna take a screenshot and I'm gonna send it to your DM maybe. Should I send it to you like a TikTok DM or no?
This just comes up in my messages, right? I wouldn't be able to see it right now.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to see it right now. All right, let me see. It's all right. Hold up. Maybe I can get this to angle right. Wait, let me bring this. Let me. Oh, it's backwards now, ain't it?
It's backwards, but it's fine. I can read it. Yeah, I see that was a problem. And you clicked that off the link that I sent in TikTok?
Yes, that's good. That's correct. Well, on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah. Because you told me to go to YouTube and put the link. So I did that.
That's odd that it did that.
Man. Well, I could make it down there. I mean, I guess if I get like the address, whatever, I could put my own reservation.
Well, you need to be on the group reservation. So the other thing that you can do is if you go to on that YouTube link in the YouTube in the description, there's also a 1-800 number you can call.
Is that the DRU, the 1-800 DRU RYNN?
Nah, I don't know, but it's just 1-800-325-0722.
You got the number at the bottom here.
It probably is, but in the description, it also has the group number. But you can also just say the Free Thinkers Group. They can look it up that way. It's Free Thinkers Group.
Okay.
But it has a group number in the description. So if you call them, you can tell them that number, and then they'll be able to link you in. But you need to do it today.
Okay.
But call that.
I'm back at the YouTube link, and I don't see a number.
In the description?
In the description. Oh, hold on. Oh, no, I'm bugging. I'm looking at the damn screenshot. I'm bugging out. Well, all right, now I'm back at the YouTube. Let me slide back up. Oh, there's a lot of people texting. All right. So I'm back in the comments on YouTube.
Not the comments, the description of the video.
The description of the video.
In the description. You know, like right where it says it has like a little bit of information and say more. It say like it had a title of it had a title in the description, and then it has more. And you click on the more.
Let me see. Nah. I slid all the way up to the top, but I only see somebody who commented. I'm looking for
not in the comments.
Oh, not in the comments?
No. In the description. See, New York people with iPhones, they don't know how to act.
Well, maybe that's the thing, because I don't see I don't see anything that says description, so I'm just clicking on whatever that looks funny.
Nah, so every time you see a video, it should have.
There's nothing that says description.
That's on this live right now. Go to last week. Go to one of the ones from last week. Go to the page and go to one of the last week.
All right. Okay. Last week. Let's see. Live. years ago, 4 days ago.
Yeah.
6 days ago.
Click any one of those for it to come up and play like a regular YouTube video. And under the title, you should see a description, and it'll have like the title again and more.
All right. I see it. It says September 23rd, Rapture. Oh, no, that's something else. And it says the hotel link. Okay.
So you got the link, and then below the link is also a couple of paragraph after the link is.
I see it now. I'm taking a screenshot.
Yeah.
I see it.
Try the link from there. If the link from there don't work, then call the number and use the group registration.
So you got to book the ticket to come to the event.
The hotel.
No, you got to book the hotel. How many days is it?
Just that weekend.
Just the weekend.
31st through 31st. Are you driving?
I probably not. I'll take the plane.
Yeah. So the 31st through the 2nd. So it's 2 nights.
What is it like to Houston, Texas? Houston or something?
San Antonio.
San Antonio. Okay. I'm booking flight. Oh yeah, and if you hit me, I could tell you something about flights too.
Yeah, let me know.
No, I'm dead serious. When I say flight, I mean like I could get you traveling for like $15.
Yeah, hit me. Yeah, like DM me on this thing.
All right. I will. Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me though.
All right, appreciate it.
I hope I can book it and see y'all on the weekend, man. Everybody else.
Yeah, on that page you should be able to book it. Where you see that link, or just call the phone number and give them the group name.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. No problem.
All right.
All right. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you. All right. Thank y'all for your patience while we was going through that. Date and time. To be upfront and honest, anything that I've okay, so I don't know what you guys have been talking about during that process. So I'm gonna try to catch up to what you guys are talking about. Right. I think y'all talking about the validity of Jesus. There's no historical information that actually pinpoints that Jesus actually existed. Not the Jesus of the Bible. The Jesus character is not historical in the sense of the Jesus of the Bible. Most of them are just talking about, they're just describing what people believed at that time frame. Like Tacitus never wrote about Jesus, he wrote about what people believed. Pliny never wrote about Jesus, he was writing about what people believed, that people believed in this Jesus. Josephus never wrote about Jesus. The Testimonium Flavianus was added to his work. The Pilate letter is a forgery. So there's no information that would validate that the Jesus of the Bible existed. The movement, did it exist? The religion? Sure. Late 1st century, early 2nd century, the religion existed. But so did the Greco-Roman religion. It existed at that time frame. The Kemetic religion existed at that time frame. Hinduism existed. Buddhism existed. Fact of a religion existing at a time frame does not mean that the initiator of that religion or the person that they are putting as the initiator of that religion actually existed. Even in certain philosophies, Lao Tzu's work for the Tao Te Ching, the work exists. Did Lao Tzu actually exist? We do not know. There's no proof of Lao Tzu actually existing, just the work that is credited to him. So we ain't got no proof of Jesus. We ain't got no proof of Joseph. And like I said earlier, if you can't prove Joseph, even if Jesus existed, it wouldn't matter. It would not matter. Like, I want you to think about that. And especially for those of you who like to go and argue with other people. If Joseph didn't exist, then the heredity that is claimed by Jesus, that Christians claim to be of Jesus, none of that exists. So then the office by which he is supposed to have held does not matter. It is all just given to him, added to him, but it's not a reality. Mm-mm. But Billy Carson believed in Christ. So, and he did not believe in I don't think he believes in Jesus the way you think he believes in Jesus, but so the hell what if Billy Carson believed in? I always found that interesting. If a scientist or a scholar believes in Jesus, as if that makes it more valid, as if that gives it validity. Hell, I wouldn't know what Billy Carson believes. He talks so much shit about different things. I don't think anybody can pin down what that man actually believes. He believes in making money. I can tell you that. He does believe in making money, and he's damn good at it. He is damn good at it because a lot of people will follow whatever that man says. So he is damn good at making money. He believes in that. But who cares? If your belief in these deities or in any of this stuff is based on the fact that somebody else that you deem important believes in it, you have a lack within yourself. You have a problem within yourself. You should only accept information that you have verified, that you have studied, you've researched for yourself. Now, you can initiate your research with somebody else who have researched the information, but you should always go back and check. It's just like just like in the earlier part of this live, I was telling you guys about how the King Drosha and the famine stele and how Imhotep, Drosha had the dream, Imhotep had the vision, and they dealt with the god Khnum in order to bring fertility back to the land of Egypt. Now, after I'm telling you that, don't go just repeat it because I said it. Go then look up the famine stele, research it, study it, come to an understanding of it, and then go repeat it based on you verifying what the information that I'm providing. All right. When you look at the Hyksos, go look at it. I might have my centuries wrong. So don't repeat the centuries I gave. Go research the Hyksos. When did they come into Egypt? Why did they come into Egypt? Who were the Hyksos people? What did they control? Did they rule? When did they leave? Why did they leave? How did they leave? Get all that information. And then you can repeat it. Then you can talk about it. So do your own research after you've gotten the information, the initiator of the information, because just like we talked, Shaoya put up about Dale Martin. I listened to a lot of Dale Martin lectures, but then I went and did the research, on the stuff that Dale Martin was talking about. Got to go and do more research on stuff. Because different people are going to have their different spins, on everything. Hell, I ain't gonna lie. For a while, when Billy Carson was first getting famous, I was like, shit, that Anunnaki stuff is some good shit to talk about over and over again. People really like talking about it, but I got bored with it. So research. Right, don't quote me on the date, but definitely look it up. Exactly. I know today has been short. That's my fault. I had I had some finish up some stuff today, and it took way longer than I anticipated. And the process was taking longer because there was some failures within the process. So I had to make a bunch of phone calls. So that's why we started late, but we're still going to end relatively at the same time because I got to get some other work done before my wife gets home. Because when she gets home, I try for my time to be spent with her and not y'all. It's funny. He will destroy you in a debate, sir. That'd be cool. See, here's something you don't know about me. I would love to actually be in a debate with someone who can run circles around. I don't think Billy Carson can. I don't think Wes Huff can. Well, I know Wes Huff can. And me and Billy probably would have too many points of agreement, so it wouldn't be as fun. Now, when he starts talking about Christ's mind and Jesus being in India and all this shit, I'm like, bro, come on, you ain't got no fucking proof of none of that bullshit. But I would love somebody who can run circles around. Right? That'd be great. Because then I learn. It'll be an opportunity to learn a bunch of stuff. Yeah. But I can't think of anybody who could run circles around me. I really don't. I can't think of any. There's some people who they'll be able to, point to this and that, but at the end of the day, they're still going to lose. They will still lose. I'm really trying to think of somebody who would be able to just like whoop my ass on the subject matter, even though they may be have more detailed information. But at the end of the day, there's not one biblical subject matter that I think that I would lose the argument. Oh, look you can't even spell Wes's name right. It's Wes Huff, not Wes Hoff. I would whoop you for sure. I don't think so, Doug. You're more than welcome to come on to the channel and try. I'm gonna post a link. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to click on the link. If 5 minutes, I ain't giving you 5 minutes, because if you're that damn slow that you don't know how to click on the link, then you're not even worth my time. Debates are performative. You can win a debate and still true. You can win a debate and still be wrong. Because truly, winning a debate is, and what's sad is that in most cases, winning a debate is if you can frustrate the other person. But on the information, you're not. Doug, hold on, let me give you equal presence on here. Can't hear you. Unmute your mic.
Yeah, what's up, man?
There you go.
What do you want to talk about, though? I don't understand how you're supposed to not get run circles around if you have nothing but like postulates to bring up. I didn't watch the whole show, by the way, but
can you prove that the biblical Joseph existed?
yeah, the Bible says that it existed.
That is not proof.
How do you wait? So how are you saying that it doesn't exist?
Because all his history surrounding that area during the time frame which Joseph, if he would have existed, his storyline runs counter to actual history of that era.
Okay, so what you're doing is trying to make an argument from silence.
I'm making an argument, yeah, from facts.
No, from silence.
From what?
Silence.
No, not an argument from silence. It's actually very loud. When did Joseph exist?
In the time of Jesus.
Okay, we're talking about the different Josephs. First, I'm talking about the Joseph of son of Jacob, Egypt.
I'm sorry, which one is that? Which give me a Bible reference.
Joseph the dreamer, the one who supposedly was sold to Potiphar's wife, sold to Potiphar, went to jail and became the second in command in Egypt. You know, the whole famine and feast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the one who went down to Egypt and became, yeah, like the second-hand man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's written down. So that's going to be my evidence, of course.
Well, I mean, Achilles is written down as far as being a great warrior during the Battle of Troy. So you would agree that Achilles existed?
Oh,
He was a demigod?
are you serious, bro? Come on. You got better arguments than to try to tell me Superman from the comics is real. Come on now.
Well, your claim is that because something is written down, then that would make it true, right?
Yeah, that's definitely
Okay.
true, bro.
So Homer's Iliad and Odyssey was written down, copied over and over again, and
Okay.
it's as exact as what Homer wrote. So Achilles is a demigod.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you've ever heard of nonfiction and fiction and you know
Yeah, and if you go
those
to any
are
bookstore
those
or any
common things?
library, the Bible is in the
Bro,
fiction
hold
section.
on, hold on. Wait a second. Did you ever go to the library when you were a kid, or did you avoid that and you were reading
Of
comics?
course, I went to the library. Now, if your argument is trying to be insult based, you're going to lose.
Bro, wait a second. You're saying what you're saying isn't insulting?
No,
Come on.
I'm just stating a fact based on your argument. How is it
No.
insulting if I use the same verification that you use to say that somebody else's mythology would also be true? I'm not insulting you personally, but you made a personal, if you've ever been to a library, if you're, yeah, that's more of
Oh,
a personal thing.
but
That is not
the
an
problem,
informational thing.
bro. But the problem becomes when it's obvious that uh, the Bible in context is not written in a fictional basis. It's written in a nonfiction basis,
But
referencing actual events.
but you placed the Bible in a lot. You talked about a library in fiction and nonfiction. The Bible is in the nonfiction is in the fiction section of the library and bookstores.
I doubt that. I mean, I doubt that highly. But if it is,
You,
then that's fine. I mean, hey,
you
you
can,
know what? They probably put the nonfiction section, something like a man could be a woman. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me. But that's complete fiction. So I mean,
you're invalidating your argument about fiction and nonfiction if it's fine that it's in the nonfiction it's in the fiction section. So are you
I mean,
trying to
I'd
make
have
fiction
well,
and nonfiction?
I would have to actually clarify that in terms of finding out if indeed that is where it is in the shelves of a library. But we both know that
So
what
you
I'm
made a
saying is,
statement without knowledge of where it actually is.
oh well, but we both know where it is actually meant to be, or what it is representing that it is meant to
No,
be.
no,
We both understand that.
you cannot assume we both know anything because I disagree with you.
Okay,
And then you're making the assumption of where it should be instead of the factual claim that you tried to make of where it is.
okay, interesting. All right. So Um, the thing is there's no way to win. Either one of us can actually win this argument. However, I don't know what your belief system actually is,
I
and I've
can.
looked this up before. The word for this is called postulate. There's no way for me to definitively prove what I believe is correct. But let's say you're somebody who believes in science, Big Bang. You can't prove that either. That's why it's called a postulate. Okay, so
And
I mean,
now,
hey, I can sit here and tell you, I can run circles around you in terms of biblical knowledge, but the fact of the matter is, it won't help you in any way. And I mean, I could prove you wrong on several things probably if you wanted to go that direction. It just doesn't seem like you want to, and won't be profitable anyway.
so first of all, you're using the word postulate, right?
Yep.
Which is to suggest or assume the existence, facts, or truth of something on the basis of reasoning, discussion, and belief, right? Just so that everybody is clear what that word is, because I know a lot of people like to use words to sound intelligent, right? But
Okay. That's the definition you got. Okay.
the
All right.
fact of the matter is that I'm not assuming. I am telling this is what history has bared out to be what are the facts that are demonstrated through archaeology, through linguistic archaeology, and through material things that we have. So when we talk about the person who will be second in command in Egypt, they have demonstrated in their histories that let you know who the chief personages are.
Mm.
There is no Joseph in the time frame that Joseph would have existed that demonstrates the story that the Bible has cultivated.
Okay, so let's go ahead for the sake of argument, and we'll try to give you that. So, do you believe that to the victor go the spoils, and they could change and rewrite their historical manuscripts or anything like that? Do you believe that?
Of course, that occurs within historical documentation. The problem with that argument in this case is the fact that the information concerning the Hyksos who did defeat the Egyptians is valid and still on the walls and in the structures. So that history of their defeat is known.
So okay, so how are you trying to validate something if you were not there as a first-hand witness? You would have to be trusting what somebody else said. Is that true or not true?
To a certain degree, you are trusting. Everyone has to do that when it comes to historical activity, but there's a process that is utilized to validate whether or not what is the most likely truth and what is not. You are believing in a Bible. You're believing in a Bible. Were you there when Jesus was born? Were you there when Joseph was second in command?
Exactly. So that's why we're both using a postulate. We have to believe in something. We have to
No,
believe in something.
you
But you're
have
believing.
you have zero material facts. That's the difference.
Wait, how close to Jesus' time would you like me to take you, sir? Where there's evidence where he existed. I mean, what do you need to have something
We're
that's
talking, we're
documented?
talking about Joseph in the Bible. Joseph, technical, the dreamer.
Okay, but you know what?
There's
Again,
zero evidence for Joseph.
I just told you you're having to believe that these documents that are being presented to you have been perfectly, how would you say, kept throughout the entire history up until this point. And the fact of the matter is, you can't prove that it has been. So,
Well, no, actually, we see that's where we're different. Yours is based on something that's written on parchment. Uh, the information concerning the history of Egypt, for the most part, is written in stone, and those stones have not been changed. And in the event that some of the stones have been inscriptions have been changed, linguistic archaeology and archaeology can demonstrate where and when those things were changed,
okay,
which is
yeah,
very
I'm not. But see, but the problem is if it's written on stone, I can take the stone, I can throw it down on the ground. Uh, After whatever historically happens with Joseph, they all go away. They go back to the land they're from, and I could take those stones, break them, and rewrite anything I want to. And there's no way you can prove that that's not true. So you're running into the same problem I'm
no,
running into.
no, you're running into your own problem because the fact of the matter is that the famine stela is still where it is. That demonstrates the time frame of the king of Joseph. We still have there are the statues and the burial chambers, and all those things are still there. There's also the history of each kingdom as they dealt with different people and different famines and whatnot, and how they dealt with them. There is nothing in Egyptian history that would fit your Bible.
It doesn't matter because, again, you've already admitted that it's a possibility that those records could have been destroyed. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So you've already admitted that. So it's like you're already in trouble.
No, I'm not.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
not in trouble. So then you admit that everything written in the Bible, somebody just could have wrote it because they wanted to.
No, because I believe that that's the inherent word of God,
Oh,
inherent word
oh,
of God.
oh,
So
oh,
that's what I
man can't tamper with your parchment.
nope.
Man can't tamper with that, but man can tamper with the stone history of other people. Do you realize how hypocritical you sound?
No, I'm not because I already told you that it's a postulate. So I'm not trying to be hypocritical. All I'm trying to do is get you to admit you're doing the same thing by trying to trust in some kind of uh, historical document that you deem is true when I'm deeming that this document over here is true. We're both doing the same thing. I'm
But
trying to tell you that that's
but
what's going
see,
on here.
the problem is that yours goes against what the scholarly consensus is as far as what really happened. Like,
See, but that's the problem is
there's no scholar outside of apologetics that will say that the Exodus actually happened.
well, I wouldn't expect anyone outside of apologetics to try to agree with Exodus, because if they did, they wouldn't be outside of apologetics anymore. So that argument doesn't make any sense.
No, the argument does, because this is the part that you seem to have a difficulty understanding, is that if the events of the Exodus happened, that would have thrown Egypt, which was the breadbasket of that region, for during any of those time frames. You would not only have the destruction of that civilization's economy and well-being at that time frame, but its effects would have caused for the entire Mediterranean region, from Italy all the way over to the Levant into Mesopotamia, would have all suffered during that time frame. So if it had happened, you would have additional data written by those other societies talking about how this great upheaval occurred at that time frame, right?
See, but the way that you're framing it is, we would have had. So you're making that trying to present that as a fact when it's not. It's
but
very
see,
easy to say that that's not a fact. You're
yeah,
claiming it as
the reason why it's a fact, because every other famine that occurred in Egypt prior to the Exodus story and after the Exodus story, we have contemporary information from those societies and how they were affected by it. So when the famine happened in the in the late to mid 1700s BCE, that famine in Egypt caused for a famine to occur in the Levant, which is what triggered the Hyksos to come down and conquer northern Egypt, because the Nile Delta area was still one of the few fertile areas, and so they fought over it and they won and they captured that land. They held that land for about 170, 180 years before southern Egypt came back up and conquered them and retook the land that they had previously lost, right? Now, if your Joseph story was a real story, right, that Joseph story would have happened somewhere, would have happened before the Hyksos came into that area, which there was no famine during that time frame of the Joseph story. It was much later.
again. So what you're relying on is your ability as a historian. That's what you're relying on. Somebody else's data that they're showing you. But again, you've already admitted that the possibility can be that some of those things were omitted. Either that or the dates that you have written down are incorrect. So that could also be true.
Oh, the dates I have are incorrect? Which date is incorrect?
The dates that you have as far as when the Old Testament was dated, the dates that actually refer in the Bible, those dates are very hard to pinpoint, bro. Like, I've seen books that it basically says unknown author, dated somewhere between here and here. So you're telling me that you pinpointed all of these dates and you figured out exactly where it should be?
Well, I figured out. No, if you must not have been here when I was first going through this. I was saying it's in and around this time frame. So I'm still giving there's still a leeway time frame, because it's in and around this time frame. Because around 980 is when most scholars are saying that Solomon was king, right? And during that time frame, Solomon says that in Second Kings he talks about how 480 years prior to him was the Exodus, which places the Exodus somewhere in around 1460. Now it could be in the late 1500s or it could be in the later 1400s, but it's going to be within that range of time. That range of time, then, since the Bible says that they sojourned in Egypt for 430 years, then that would put the beginning time frame of them sojourning in Egypt, which would be the Joseph time frame, or in or around 1890, since they were in there for 430 years. Now, Joseph lived for 110 years, so it could be, according to the Bible, so it could be in the 1780s when he died, or it could be something. So it could be in that early 17th century BC, 1700s, which would put it in the 19th to 18th century BCE, right?
Oh,
But
okay, okay.
so it's
So
an
you're, I mean,
informal
you're
about
going from. Go ahead.
no, so you're saying my dates are wrong, but my dates are in the same way that the Bible is describing the dates.
Well, I mean, personally, I've never actually tried to go into this kind of dating system that you're trying to adhere to. However, I just want to point that let's just go
So
with
you're
this
saying my dates are wrong, but you never really researched the dating time frame.
because I've never felt the need to do so. It's not important for
So
me
you're
to
willing
go
to
look.
come in, so you're willing to come in and try to tell somebody that their dating is wrong, but yet you've never done the research yourself.
See, but the problem is that I don't have to go try to dig into the research itself because I just told you a reason why your dating system and the reason why you're trying to argue from silence is because they destroyed it. Now let me try to make another point to that,
So go
which is
ahead.
this. Hold on, right? Okay, so historically speaking, and as a human being who is a running a country, or maybe you are the subsequent leader of that country, um, do countries tend to admit when they have been defeated? And don't you think that the answer there is probably going to be no, right? Nobody wants to admit defeat. They just, we didn't lose the war in Vietnam. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like, as an example. So it's pretty straightforward answer. It's no, nobody likes to admit defeat. So then
That, but
wouldn't you?
well, hold on. Dude, you're making that statement after I already demonstrated that the Egyptians admitted their defeat to the Hyksos. So to say that no one does that is a lie, since they admit
Well, no,
that they.
that's a different story. That's a different story because we're comparing apples and oranges in a way now because the people, the Jewish people, were considered second class citizens at best. So this is like the underclass, like the serious underdog, ending up walking out of there unscathed, just like they did prior in the days of Moses. They walked out unscathed. So I mean, is that even recorded? I doubt it. So like, how embarrassing, you know?
So how?
It's,
So see, here's where you run into another problem with your Moses people walking out of there unscathed. At the
okay.
time, and we have documentation that demonstrates that Egypt was in control of the Levant at the time frame that the Exodus story would have happened. So if the Moses story, sorry, was true, then they would have left Egypt just to go into more Egypt.
They left Egypt to wander around in Egypt for a little while until they were given
So they,
proper instructions to go the right way.
but the Bible said they left Egypt. Egypt still controlled the Sinai Peninsula. Egypt still controlled the Levant. So they would have been walking around killing people in Egypt, and Egypt didn't do shit about it.
Oh, I don't know about that. It didn't really say they were walking around killing people, but
I know, again, you have not read your Bible because there were many cities that they genocided while they was walking around for 40 years. And then when they
uh,
finally went into Jericho, they genocided some more cities. But during the time frame that those things would have been happening, Egypt was in control of that area because those were vassal states. And we have things like the Amarna letters that demonstrate that they were vassal states of Egypt, asking Egypt for help, asking Egypt to settle issues between other vassal states. They were all under Egyptian control. So there's no way they could have escaped history.
yeah, like I said, though, it's pretty simple, man. Like if you would have suffered such a massive blow to the ego of your country, you would want to get rid of it. I think it's pretty obvious. But
No,
they wrote
no, it's not. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that you have this little narrative of they would not have written it. There are many churches that preach that same thing and they expect y'all to believe it, and y'all do. But they know that the historical data goes against that.
no,
The I've shown you, we know the Hyksos control northern Egypt because the information is still there. And that is a more massive blow. To lose the Nile Delta area is more of a massive blow than losing some slaves. because you have lost kingship. You have lost the biggest trading post. Now anything you try to float up the Nile goes into another kingdom that you don't control. So you now can't trade with Greece. You can't trade with Turkey. You can't trade with any of the Mediterranean cultures. So you've lost your primary source of funds. And they admitted and recorded that disaster that lasted for over 160 to 180 years. It's recorded. And you think a couple of slaves leave and that is such a devastating blow? It is not as devastating.
Yeah. Now, why could somebody say such a thing? Why could somebody think such a thing? Because it goes beyond just somebody having a country. During those times, it's their gods, bro. My God's better than your God type thing. So, of course, they're going to want to bury that. That's just the way it is. You need it. If you don't understand that, I don't know what to tell you, because that I think that's factual. There's been many of gods that you probably won't even know because their
That
people got destroyed and everything got
has
destroyed.
nothing to do with it, and we see that throughout the whole storyline. Because and saying that people will bury it. Let me give you an example of how it's not buried. So, according to your Bible in Kings, it talks about how Omri had lost against Mesha, and that the God of Israel was punishing them because Mesha he sacrificed one of his sons to his god Shamash, and the Israelites weren't doing their rightful worship of Yahweh, and so that's why they lost, right? That's what the Bible says. But then we have
Okay.
the Mesha Stela, and the Mesha Stela simply says that the Israelite kings before Omri were very harsh towards us. And all that Mesha says is that he prayed to Shamash, went into battle against the Israelites, whooped the Israelites' ass, took their sacrificial animals, and then after the battle, sacrificed those animals to Shamash. So we got both sides of the story. It is not thrown away. It is not gone anywhere. You got both sides of the story.
In this case, maybe you do have both sides of the story, but
Okay.
who's lying?
So we also is the Bible, and we also have the whole dealings between Sennacherib and Hezekiah. We got both sides of that story as well. And here's what's
It's
funny. Everybody else got a regular story. Y'all got this supernatural, an angel came and killed 180,000 people. Yet we see Sennacherib's army that he pulled from Jerusalem, then go down and conquer into Judea, into Judah, and down into into the Sinai Peninsula. That same army going down there, and without this great loss. And we see that Hezekiah paid Sennacherib, which both of them admit. So your claim that, oh, if they lost, they destroyed the information is invalid because we have too much of both sides of the story. These
no.
people,
See, you're trying to make an argument from silence. That's what you've been trying to do the whole time. But just because it's not there doesn't mean it did exist and was destroyed.
I just gave you two examples where it is there. It's just
I
a
know that.
variation of the story.
It doesn't disprove anything.
I what I understand is that you have confirmation bias, and that's fine. And that your claim before I allowed you to come up here is that you was going to run some circles around me. And I have not turned my neck one time to see you behind me or beside me. You've been in front of me the whole time and have not moved an inch, my guy, because
It
your
doesn't matter.
argument is terrible. This is a
No,
terrible argument.
I'm going to say your argument's terrible, and furthermore, I
I
thought you were talking like an argument on actual biblical things, not trying to compare biblical with how much history has recorded the Bible recounts. So,
so
uh,
you came
even
up
the
here
conversation
with the
isn't even
wrong
the
information.
conversation. Wait, isn't even the conversation I was hoping for. But I
No,
told you in the very beginning that you have a postulate, something that you cannot prove. You
you got
can't
that
prove
one
from
good word you want to keep using it over and over again. So, what
you
conversation
can't
did you
prove,
want to have? What
sir.
conversation did you want to have?
Sir, you read the definition. It's
What
exactly what's going on right
what?
now.
No, actually, it's not. But what conversation do you want to have?
I thought it would go differently. I mean, I don't know what
Okay,
else you want to talk about, bro.
what's the conversation, bro?
Pick one. Go ahead.
No, I'm giving you the advantage by allowing you to pick the conversation, then it should be something that you know a great deal about. So pick the conversation, bro.
Well, why would I want to do that actually? Because I have a lot of biblical knowledge, but
I'm
I'm
giving
not
you
going to.
the opportunity to pick the conversation. Like if I wanted to pick a conversation if
Sure.
somebody gave me the opportunity to say that, okay, we're going to
Fine,
talk about
fine.
anything
Okay,
dealing
cool.
with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Bible. I'm
All
talking,
right, I
stop
got
talking.
you.
I'm talking,
So,
stop
so,
talking. I'm talking, stop talking. If somebody wanted to have a conversation with me about the Bible, then of course I'm going to, and they give me the opportunity. There are certain subject matters about the Bible that I know more than any other aspects of the Bible. So I'm going to take advantage and pick one of those subject matters. So I'm giving you the advantage, bro.
okay.
Pick a
Is there any example in the Bible of infant baptism?
Is there what?
Any example in the Bible of infant baptism?
Actually, there isn't any examples of infant baptism. It was argued by Augustine that it is not in there, but that it's still a good thing to do.
Huh. So any form of infant baptism is not there.
Not any form. There are. Let's see. Let me think about that before I answer that one.
All right. All right. Go ahead and think about it. Don't look anything up on the internet now.
No, why not? That's what the internet's for. If you
Oh,
need to look it
all
up,
right.
I could.
Once right there. Go ahead.
Um, there, right off the bat, I can't necessarily think of uh, where infants were baptized. I mean, you got Jesus saying, "Don't stop the children from coming to me," but that's not talking about baptism.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say yay or nay, but I do know what I know it's not a requirement.
Okay. So how about go to 1 Corinthians 10:2? You want to do that?
Sure.
All right, cool. Appreciate it. And I'm going to turn off my sarcasm at this point because I do know quite a bit.
Let's see what this is about. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 2. And all were baptized into. Okay, so I do not want you to be ignorant, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud and all passed through the sea. And all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And all ate the same spiritual food. Okay, so what's your go ahead and make your point.
Well, that's the
Make your
baptism
point.
right there. I just made my
No,
point.
it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's
What do
not.
you mean?
Oh my God. So you do not understand what poetic language means then. This is poetic language by saying that all of them were baptized. So did the waters of the seas dip all over their heads? Were they
Who said
submerged?
water? Wait. Who said water had to dip on anyone's head, or people had to be submerged? Who said that? Where does it say that?
That's why John the Baptist was submerging the people under the water. So this is poetic language. So poetic language is utilizing like floral language to get across a certain subject matter, but not meant to be taken literally. This is
Wait a second.
poetic language in saying that. So you saying they all ate spiritual food because they all ate manna? They all
They all
that
ate spiritual. It says
they
the
were
word, but the
all
word.
baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. So they all went in they all went into the clouds. Did they all go into the clouds? Since you're taking
That's not
this,
what. That's not what it. Yeah, that's not what it says. Just read it the way it's read. It doesn't say that they were all baptized.
it says that they were all baptized into Moses in the clouds
Okay,
and
so
in the sea. So you're saying
okay,
that they went into the clouds. They flew up
so
into the clouds.
no, that's not what it says. It doesn't say they went up into the clouds. That's not what this. That's not what it
It
says. And
says that.
furthermore, baptism. Baptism doesn't mean people go up into the clouds. That's not what
So
baptism is.
did they go into the sea?
You know this. Just try, try to be like the.
Dude, I'm reading it, and they were, so follow along slowly. And
Mhm.
all were baptized
Yes.
into Moses in the cloud
In
and
the
in
cloud.
the
What is the
sea.
cloud? What is the cloud?
Oh, according to this story, this cloud is supposed to be God. So they were baptized into this cloud of God.
Okay, there you go. That
So
makes more sense when they went up into the cloud.
so they all went into the cloud that the God was hiding himself in, that he was demonstrating himself to be with them, because he led them by a cloud during the day, and he led them by fire during the night. So it says they went so it says baptized in the cloud. So not below it, not beside it, in the cloud.
Right.
So they were in the cloud then with God.
Yeah, but the cloud is not
Literally.
in the cloud, bro.
So were they literally in the cloud?
Yeah, the cloud. It says you just read it. It says the cloud by day and the fire by night, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So
That makes way more
here's the
sense than
thing.
it went up into the cloud.
So in the story, in the Exodus story, it says the cloud goes before them, not they're walking in the cloud, but it's before them, meaning ahead of them. So they're not in the cloud. So for you to take the in the sea to be literal of baptism is just as illogical as saying that they were literally say that they were in the cloud with God, when
Well,
the story says over and over again that the cloud was before them, or the cloud was on top of the mountain.
Okay, honestly, bro, does it say the word baptized there? And if we think of it in terms of all of them leaving Egypt, they didn't leave their infants behind, right? We can
They
agree
were
there,
baptized in the cloud.
right?
So
So
you don't
if
see
you,
how this is metaphorical, poetic language, that this is not meant to be taken literally.
it's a baptism. That's all I can tell you. It says it was a baptism.
No, right. So you take your one little word, but you're taking the whole thing as to be literal, but it's actually poetic language. It's a metaphor.
Oh, so
It's not a
baptism.
literal baptism.
Okay. No, I got you. So then the word baptism doesn't actually mean baptism. Why does it say baptism?
Yes. See, now you're trying to like stray off into another kind of thought process about what
No,
does
I
baptism
mean,
mean.
different
I
thought
know what
process at all.
baptism means, but what
You're
we're
the
saying
word.
is there is a difference. See, this is kind of like what I was reading about the word yam. Its meaning in the New Testament and its meaning in the Old Testament. So its meaning in the New Testament is poetic language. Its meaning in the Old Testament is meant to be literal, a literal 24-hour days. Baptism, when you're talking about John the Baptist, talking about Jesus coming into the water with John the Baptist and all that, that's a literal baptism. What First Corinthians is talking about is a metaphorical baptism.
Is it okay? So you agree that
So you're saying that infant baptism can be metaphorical. It doesn't have to be literally done.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm asking is my original question was, is there any form of any baptism, infant baptism, in the Bible? And you said no, and then you said I don't know. And now you're saying the word baptism doesn't actually mean baptism. So what you're doing is you're taking away from the word, and then you're trying to erase it. You're trying to erase that word to make yourself correct.
No, I'm looking at it. See, here's the thing that you've
done. Around you again, bro.
No, you've made no circle whatsoever. You haven't even moved an inch again. Your argument, yes, you're right. At first, I was like, I don't think there is, but then I wasn't 100% sure. So then you tried to bring about this as your example, right? But your example fails because this is metaphorical. This is not specifically talking about a literal baptism. And now you're trying to hit everything on the one word. But it is obvious that the context around it, and I know y'all like that word, context. The context around it demonstrates that it is poetic language describing the events that they believe happened during the time frame of Moses and saying that it was a baptism, but it was not a literal baptism. And now
So
you're focusing in on the fact that because this metaphorical baptism happened and there would have been infants, that then it is talking about infant baptism. But it's not, because the infant baptism you're talking about is a literal infant baptism.
okay, so how many different types of baptism are there in the Bible?
There's a literal baptism, and right, you just shown a metaphorical baptism.
Interesting. Okay. So when it says John says I baptize by water, but the one who comes after me, he baptizes by spirit. Is that two different forms of baptism? Are they the same? Are they different? What is it?
No, John is saying that he does literal baptisms in the water. He's saying that Jesus will come and baptize your spirit, circumcise your spirit. Same way as a circumcision. There's a literal circumcision, and then there's a metaphorical circumcision. So what's your point? That's still, you brought up infant baptism. Did you specify anything? No, but that's fine. But even
No, I said form.
trying to argue as a point is no point at all.
I said form. Now you're talking about a metaphorical form. Is that not yet still a form?
If you want to make it up to be one, sure.
Oh, okay. But what do you think? What do you think, though?
That is it a form of baptism?
Yeah.
I
Do you say no? Okay. All right. So metaphorical things just they don't count for anything. Okay, I got you. No, I got you. Okay.
So, so let me give you a little information. I was born and raised in the Baptist church. So baptism is a literal thing that you have to do and that you must do in order to show that you are a believer in Jesus, right? After the baptism comes you doing the work of making yourself into a better spiritual person, a better follower. And so there is then the metaphorical idea of the continuation of your physical baptism in a spiritual metaphorical process in order for you to become more like Jesus. But it's not that you go and repeat the process ever again. It's just a thought of mine. A baby, however, cannot begin to circumcise their heart or go through a spiritual baptism, because a baby, an infant, has no freaking idea what God is, has no freaking idea what good and bad is, evil, devil, none of those things.
Okay, so that's good, because I'm glad that you went to that particular point. So because you sound like you're familiar with the Bible, so that's good. We can both be on the same page when I try to say something like, well, how is it that in Elizabeth's stomach, when Mary came into the room, the baby leapt from inside her? If the baby didn't know anything, like how does it, even in the womb, something's happening with a recognition
but you're
with the baby?
Okay, so this, how old are you?
Oh, I'm just about as old as you. I'm just about as old as you.
Oh, really? So you have children?
What does that have to do with it? No, I don't. No.
Okay. Well, there's an experience that I would have hoped that you had if you had
Oh
children.
man, no, hey man, believe me, I'm still holding out. All right.
Okay,
really,
that's fine.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Anytime my children's mother was pregnant with our kids, and as they got bigger in the womb, right? When I would walk into the room, my kids would start to move and kick and stretch out and all that sort of thing. Because I am not saying a baby doesn't know anything. Babies start learning. Hold on. Babies start learning from the moment, there's a certain point when their brain develops and their senses develop, they start learning even when they're in the womb. But if they're learning, if it's over the time frame of me talking to the belly, that once I came into the room and the baby in the belly would recognize the vibrations of my voice and start kicking and moving, because I consistently talk to the belly.
Okay.
I don't know, and you don't know what type of relationship Elizabeth and Mary had, that when Mary came into the room, the baby recognized the vibration or whatever, but to make the assumption that she recognized it was Jesus inside of Mary, or and that was at conception, is a pretty presumptuous assumption.
Well, see, okay, it's fine. I can give you everything that you just said, and I can agree with everything that you just said because I'll give you that space to do that. However, you basically just step back from saying you don't actually know, or from when you basically know when somebody when a brain is starting to uh, be able to conceptualize and do these things, to now you said, well, even in the womb, yeah, they are able to do stuff. And that's a question that actually no one's ever going to be able to answer. Only scientists who are going to claim whatever they want to. So I'm glad you kind of went that way because
Hold
it
on,
just like
don't try to mince up what I said though. I said that an infant does not know, because we were talking about infants. We're talking about infants outside the womb when we was talking about baptism and all that sort of thing.
Sure, yeah, I agree.
Infants don't know the difference between, they don't know what's good. I was specific. I said they don't know good and evil. They don't know God, what a God is. They don't know what a devil is. So don't
See,
try
but
to
there's no way that's not provable, though. You know that's not provable.
I was very specific.
But you know the thing is you still know that that's not provable because if you're able to admit that a baby has this kind of development that's going on and can respond to your vibration from your voice or whatever when you come into a room, so you don't actually know
Yes, we
how
do.
much.
Yes,
Oh,
we
we do.
Yes.
Okay.
We know that a baby doesn't know the difference between what's good and what's bad. An infant doesn't know that. They have to learn. They have to be taught.
Okay. All
We
right.
know
So let's
there is
move on.
no. If you think that we don't know, then that just shows how deeply devoted you are to this information that you're willing to say anything.
Well, sure. Okay. So here's one reason why. All right, because I believe that we are all born into what is known as original sin. Now, here's one thing, another point that goes along the same line that I'd like to discuss with you. Which is, are you familiar with the circumcision on the 8th day?
Am I what?
Familiar with circumcision on the 8th day? The law, I think it's in Leviticus, maybe it's 29:7 or something like that. I don't remember, but you're familiar with it though, right?
I'm familiar.
Okay. So then, my question to you is, if you were to think as from what you know about the Bible, if somebody was not circumcised on the 8th day, regardless of reason, were they included in the old covenant?
I don't think they were. I can't remember exactly, but I don't think they were.
Okay.
You
So
you had to go through. Yeah, I don't think
what,
they
what
were.
would your gut response be to something like that?
My gut response. My gut response is that it's stupid, but
All right, I know, yeah, I know, but come on now, you have a background.
as far as the Bible, okay, so as far as the Bible is concerned, my gut response is that if someone is born into an Israelite family and they are not circumcised on the 8th day, that in order for them to, that they would be outside the covenant, but then there are other sacrificing of animals and other shit they can do to then make them part of the covenant. Then, as far as somebody who's non-Israelite, they come into Israelites in the old covenant days, then they will have to go through circumcision, no matter how old they are, to come up under the covenant.
Huh, okay, interesting. So if I'm trying to nail your point down to where I understand it, you're saying that it doesn't matter what the circumstances, but if an Israelite is not circumcised on the 8th day, they are excluded from the old covenant. Is that correct?
What time frame are we talking about? We're talking about people living in the old covenant days or people living in your new covenant days?
Well, we're talking about old covenant days because obviously I believe that the circumcision is done away with. So we're talking about the old covenant days. Yeah, Old Testament.
Okay, so according to the law, you have to be circumcised in the old by the 8th day.
Okay. Okay. So let me we'll do this. Let's go here. I mean, I think at least if you're knowledgeable in the Bible, this is good. At least this is at least entertaining. Let's see. I want to go to 1. No, it's not 1. I think it's 2. Yep. Okay.
Come on. I'm already
Let's go
over.
with what are you talking about?
Usually I'm done by now, but come on.
All right. Good. Let's see. So let's go to 2 Samuel 12:18, and then 2 Samuel 12 and 23.
2 Samuel 12:18. On the seventh day, the child died. What is this? Oh, this is David and Bathsheba's story. On the seventh day, the child died, and the servants of God were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, while the child was still alive, we spoke to him, and he did not listen to us. How can we tell him the child is dead? He may do himself some harm. What does this have to do with your child, with your circumcision?
You need to go to verse 23. He wasn't actually circumcised on the 8th day.
Yeah,
Was
20,
he?
but now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he will not return to me. What's your thought on that?
So my thought is, I'll ask you. You would already know the answer to this question, being that you
No,
have
you
such
brought it
a.
up. You brought it up
So
as something that you know. You know this. So
correct.
what? So let the knowledge flow.
So
Break open
my
your mouth and let the knowledge flow.
Is David an Old Testament saint?
Is David what in the Old Testament?
In the Old Testament saint.
Old Testament sing?
Saint, S-A-I-N-T.
There is nothing that says that he was a saint. David was an Old Testament king. Come on, just get to your info.
Okay. So if the child died on the 7th day and was not actually circumcised on the 8th day, yet, even if there was a question about it, because your answer was no, if they don't get circumcised on the 8th day, they are not in the Old Covenant. However, if David is an Old Testament saint, which he is, and he is saying that he will go to his child, where does his child go? He goes to wherever David's going because he's saying he's going to go to his child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So he's part of both the Old and New Covenant, even though he wasn't.
So here's your problem with what you were. When you look at the Old Testament writings, did the Old Testament, where did they go when they die?
According to the New Testament, they went to Abraham's bosom, which is also known as somebody.
We ain't talking about the New Testament. We talking Old Testament. So you got to have your Old Testament knowledge. So David would have believed, where would David have believed his child goes? Let me run this circle around you.
Right. You're not running a circle around at all.
Where would David have believed that his child is going?
I don't think that David actually believed this because I can point it out as to why, but you're going to want to say Hades, yeah? Or something to that effect.
That is not the word that they use, but they use the word Sheol. Old Testament believers, which David would have been an Old Testament believer and only had the knowledge of the Old Testament, believed that everyone, and this was the Jewish religion back then that he was facilitating, believed that everyone went to Sheol. So he would go to him again, of course, because he's in Sheol. You didn't go to heaven, nor did you even go to hell during the time frame of the religion when David was alive. They went to Sheol, and everybody, good or bad, under the covenant, not under the covenant, everybody went to Sheol.
What happens in Sheol?
So you try, huh?
What happens in Sheol? Does the body decay in Sheol?
It's relatively like a shadowy, dark place that everybody just goes to, and that
Okay.
you
So
kind of,
is
and
there,
you're just there. But
okay.
see,
So
here's your problem, and no, here's your problem, and I'm going to be done because you don't even understand your own Bible because you are the type of
bro,
person
in
you are
circles, so
taking
many
you
circles
are
run around right now.
taking
You're in trouble.
you,
You're in trouble.
you try to overtalk me, dude. You're not going to overtalk me. You are the type of person, you are trying to take your New Testament and force it to be the mindset of what was going on in the Old Testament. But the New Testament believers are writing from a different perspective of what the afterlife was. By the time frame of Jesus and Paul, they were infused the Zoroastrian and the Greco-Roman ideas of the afterlife, which now made Hades or Sheol have Abraham's bosom and Abaddon. But in the time frame that David is supposed to have been alive, which would have been around the 10th to 9th century BCE, the ideas of the afterlife in Judaism hasn't progressed to the point of Abraham's bosom and Sheol, Abraham's bosom and Abaddon, a place for good people, a place for bad people. It was just everyone dies and just goes into this sleepy trance place that's dark. That's it. So when David made that statement, his statement would not have been concerning Abraham's bosom and Abaddon. It would have simply just been everybody goes into Sheol, which is where Samuel was, which was he was pissed off when they brought him back to life with the necromancy. So I'm done for the day. I thought you was gonna run some circles, but you just stayed right in front of me. That was so, I wasted time. That was boring. I'm hungry as I'll get out now. I'm past my lunchtime. So I appreciate you coming up here, but yeah, you might want to go and learn a lot more about your Bible before you come up here and have a conversation with me. So I'm done, guys. I know somebody was waiting on TikTok. I appreciate you. Catch me tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. I greatly appreciate it. But we go live every Monday through Friday at 12 noon. And usually go to only about 3 o'clock. But since I started late today, I'm going a little bit late. And I love how he think he ran circles. But you know, see, that's the difference between me and a Christian. If someone actually was able to run circles around me, I would admit, dude, you wore me out. I got to go back and do my research. I got to study this. I got to do that. Instead of having that pride, you know, don't they tell them that don't they supposed to have, release their pride, right? They're supposed to release their pride, but they still maintain it. I even let this joker go on there and decide what the subject matter is, and you still couldn't defend it. You still, yeah. So anyway, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great day. Now because today is the last day for the discount part. I want, but you'll still be able to get the room reservations even after today. But we want to make sure that all the discounts still apply and everything kicks. So I need, 4 or 5 more people to go ahead and reserve their rooms for here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. I'm gonna have a great time. I'm gonna make sure I eat the whole time, so I'm not gonna be hangry. Just joking. But I look forward to it, and y'all have a great day. And I'm gonna post some videos after this, so like, share all the videos, and always remember you gotta free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. See y'all tomorrow.